Okay, I will now call to order the Town of Elon Town Council. Is this our first official meeting as a town council or second? I wasn't here for. Oh, what a bummer. Okay, well, the second meeting of our town council. Today is June 27th, 2022. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If all who are able will please stand and face the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a request, if a representative from Elon University, I believe we're waiting on Brad Moore. If he joins, we will be moving that line item up in the agenda, unless there's any issue with doing so. All right, so if he comes before the public hearing, otherwise it'll stay where it is. Okay, so first item is some introductions. So, Mr. Rodner, we have some new staff members to be introduced.
We do. And actually, I'll expand on the list just a bit,
Okay.
since we have such a crowd. And it's no secret that over the last couple months, we've been filling some positions. 6-8 weeks ago now, 2 months ago, 2.5 months, we hired Joe Weston. We hired Joe Weston as our new downtown development coordinator. She came to us after a couple of years up in Reedsville, and we've been thrilled to have her on board so far. She's hit the ground running, and so we're going to see continued things happening downtown and not missing a beat. I'd also like to introduce our new fire chief, Landon Massey, who's come from us from EM Holt Fire Department. He was down there for about 17 years. Last 7 or so is their deputy, and he joined us last Tuesday as our new fire chief. And again, I think he's hit the ground running, and just chatting with him, and he's already got his first issue to deal with. So things are going on very smoothly so far. And chronologically, I will introduce everybody to our new town attorney, Bob Hickman from the firm of Pointer Spruill. Official first day with us was probably last Tuesday as well. So we're initiating. And last but certainly not least, our new planning director, Lori Oakley. Lori joined us about 8 hours ago. So if you have any questions about the project tonight, they go to Lori. She's in charge. Did you notice that bus that just went by? Lori's been the planner up in Person County for the last 5.5 years, and has had some other planning positions elsewhere in the state, both private and both public as well as a stint on the private side. And we did not hold that against her, being a former public land use planner myself. So those are all our new staff folks that I wanted to make sure that you all had a face to go with the names that you've seen in emails. And I want to welcome them all. I'm thrilled that they're here. And there actually is one last one who is an existing employee, Kathy Barham, who did not stick around this evening. She's been our payroll accounts payable person for about 5 years, I think. And she has now been promoted to interim finance director, and she'll be taking over that role formally over the next several months with all the rights and privileges that come with it. So we're thrilled to be back to full staff at the department head level, and now we've got a couple other positions that we're still working on. So
I think they deserve it.
Next line item is proclamation. And are we reading these proclamations this evening?
that would be your discretion.
Okay,
Typically, yes,
okay,
but
we will read them. Okay, so the first one is designation of July as Park and Recreation Month. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the town of Elon. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being, and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorder, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation is a leading provider of healthy meals, nutrition services, and education. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas Elon recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore be it resolved by the Elon Town Council that July is recognized as Park and Recreation Month in the town of Elon. That was wordy. Not as long this time, promise. All right, so the designation of July 15th as Park and Recreation Professionals Day. Whereas the town of Elon Town Council recognizes that the field of parks and recreation is a diverse and comprehensive system that improves personal, social, environmental, and economic health. And whereas the town council recognizes the importance and benefits of park and recreation services that enrich the lives of its community members and help make this community a desirable place to live, work, play, and visit. And whereas the town council supports the skilled work of park and recreation professionals to strengthen community cohesion and resiliency, connect people with nature and each other, and provide and promote opportunities for healthy living, equity, and environmental sustainability. And whereas the town council values the essential services that park and recreation professionals and volunteers perform to provide recreational and developmental enrichment for our children, youth, adults, and older adults, and to ensure our parks and recreational spaces are clean, safe, inclusive, welcoming, and ready to use. Now therefore, be it resolved, the town council does hereby proclaim July 15th, 2022 as Park and Recreation Professionals Day in the town of Elon. Thank you for that. Okay, so the next item that we will open up is our public comment section. Yeah, I know, Brad, you'll come next. So this is our public comment section for any non-agenda item on our agenda. So if you are here to talk with the public hearing related to the rezoning, this is not that portion. This is just general public comments about, your desires and wishes, again, not related to the agenda for the town. If you have a public comment, you can stand, state your name and your address, and then you will be given 3 minutes.
My name is Jim Beasley. I live at 208 Orange Drive here in Elon. I just want to take this opportunity whenever, as chairman of the planning board, whenever a gathering of people that are passionate about this community, we always want to solicit volunteers to work on our planning board, parks and recreation board, parents committee, all kinds of boards that we have here in the town. And we welcome y'all here. But we would also welcome you to sign up and contact Diane and name on the roster to be considered for future employment. The pay is zero. It's wonderful to have so many people here that are passionate about the town of Ely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley, and I believe Mr. Beasley is our longest serving volunteer. Is that correct, Diane?
That's correct.
Yes, many, many years. So we'll tell you all about it, that's for sure. Any other public comments related to non-agenda items? Okay, with that, we will close the public comment section. We are now moving up letter A under new business. This is the SUP Major Development Plan, MDP number 2022-01, Elon University Gateway sign. Are we starting with Carrie or are we just turning it to Brad?
We'll start with me. I'm just.
Okay. All right, so. Oh, sorry.
No worries. You have been asked to conduct a quasi judicial public hearing to consider a special use permit to allow a sign at the intersection of University and Kelly. The information is in your packet. This is next slide. Diane, the next slide. This is a submitted by Brad Moore, who is Brad here.
Yes.
Okay. On behalf of the university. It's the two parcels that are on, if the intersection of O'Kelly and University has those four corners, it's the two corners on the south of University. And next, parcels that will be subject to the special use permit are shown as such. The sign ordinance allows development entry signs to exceed some of the requirements in the ordinance with the issuance of a special use permit. And so this application is requesting an exception to the LDO standards, which I will show you in a minute, for the sign. They're also running, this project will require a major development plan approval by the planning board and the town council. And the plan associated with the special use permit is detailed such that it qualifies as a major development plan. So the consideration of the special use permit is certainly a hearing for the special use permit. I'm asking you to consider the plan afterwards as a major development plan as recommended. The alternative would have been about 4 additional months of running the processes beyond. Next. The pieces A and C are the regulation that the applicant is asking for exceptions for. Signboard no greater than 32 square feet, and nothing can be greater than 6 feet. So the bottom paragraph tells you that if you are going to be asking for a special use permit, you have to satisfy these 6 items, which this applicant does. Staff has reviewed it, TRC has reviewed it. We worked with them during the design to ensure that they satisfied all 6 of those requirements for the special use permit. Have you done a quasi judicial proceeding in a while? It's especially awkward doing both quasi judicial and legislative in the same evening. So this is just a reminder that the special use permit does follow a quasi judicial proceeding where any sort of anything spoken for or against the project needs to be submitted as evidence. Anything else is considered hearsay. And Those who wish to speak from the audience are to be affirmed as telling the truth in the evidence that they present. So I think that there are, in your staff report, there should be findings that are required in order to approve a special use permit. Any questions about that process? Next slide gives us a little bit more detail about what the site looks like. The inn at Elon is just below the longer area there to the right of Kelly. To orient yourself, this will be another, it will signify an entryway to the university that is needed for this area. Next slide. There's a series of, this is the major development plan that the CRC has approved and recommended approval that you will be approving as part of the proceedings tonight. This is also being used as the site plan that proves the 6 elements of the special use permit have been satisfied. Next slide. The profile of the sign is as such. It will have a university sign. There'll be a wall on either intersection with a sign on just one of the sides. A bell tower will be located in the median at the road there. Location has been reviewed by and will continue to be reviewed by NCDOT, emergency access, anyone who might have any concern with a bell tower being in the median, the right of way.
It's a meeting of O'Kelly.
Of O'Kelly, yeah, yes, not university. And it's set back far enough from the intersection. The feeling of the technical reviewers are that it's set back far enough from the intersection. It won't interfere with sight distance and it won't cause unsafe driving conditions. Next slide. All of the next 4 slides are renderings, schematic renderings of what the sign would look like. You see the bell tower off to the right. So this is from university. Next slide. This is a perspective also from heading west on university. Sign the bell tower there in the meeting of O'Kelly. Next slide. Facing east on university, there is a sign on east on university, just showing the perspective of the 2 signs. I think what I was trying to say is one of the walls and signs will be built at first. So it'll be built in phases. And the next slide. I think this is the last one. This is going south on O'Kelly at the intersection, the perspective of what the sign and bell tower together will look like. Is that the last one, Diane? Okay. Staff does recommend that, pardon me for leaving the planning board on there. It recommends that you conduct a quasi-judicial hearing to consider the special permit and that you also review and approve the major development plan. I feel that I would actually, the attorney is here. So Bob, I had assumed a single motion to approve both, but would we be safer having a separate motion for the special use permit and a separate motion for the major development plan?
They can do both at one time.
Okay.
And when is the recommendation for that hearing at our next meeting?
The recommendation was for you to hold that hearing tonight with a decision at your next meeting. I'm sorry that wasn't translated
That's okay.
translated correctly to you.
It's not, but it is fine. So what is our next step in order to do that? because it's my first.
Okay.
Open the hearing.
So it's opening a hearing as you would for a rezoning. Announcing that any of those who wish to speak for or against the project should, do you have a statement of affirmation? Did I give you a statement of affirmation? Do you have, Diane? Like, yeah, an oath.
Oh, yes, I do. Yes.
To be speaking under oath. And then the hearing is closed when there are no comments, you deliberate. And then, make a decision based on the staff report findings.
Okay. And we would need to open up that quasi judicial hearing
Yes, ma'am.
before Brad can speak. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Well, it's actually up to you. I feel like you should, because so that he can present his testimony as evidence. Yes.
I'm ready.
I'm just gonna tell you what to say.
You just want to email it to me? Okay.
So
that's
I-
fine.
You just gotta say, I solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge.
About to give, what was the rest?
Is true to the best of your knowledge.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Yes, you are.
How many people giving testimony? Or are you?
Of me. Yeah, of me. And I think, see Bob's comfort level is, if you're asking questions of the people giving testimony, the answers have to be evidentiary in nature.
My questions are pretty simple.
So if you, do you want to ask questions before you open the public hearing so that you understand what is before you?
Madam Mayor, may I ask a procedural question? Has this been advertised as a public hearing for
Yes, sir.
tonight?
Yes, sir, it has.
And so why is it not listed under public hearings on the agenda? Just curious.
I don't know, obviously, there was a miscommunication. Staff about what the nature of the proceeding was.
Also, Madam Mayor, just maybe a technicality, but one that a lot of places insist on. My understanding is that everyone, including the staff, needed to be sworn for a special use permit consideration. At least that's the way
That is
Understood it
practice for.
in
for-
other areas.
For many others, not for all, and I'm happy to take that oath as well and present information during the hearing.
Any,
I would recommend that you also administer the oath to staff.
and have her represent?
She can verify that, state that what she presented was true to the best of her knowledge.
We're learning as we go tonight. Thank you, Tom. Okay,
Want to go ahead and do that? So
Yeah. Do I need to stand? Okay,
I don't thi- we can separate. It's,
okay.
yeah.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you just gave is true to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak and be sworn in before we open it up to questions or comments? Brad, let's go ahead and swear you in if that's
Sure.
okay, and then we'll have Randy ask his questions. So Brad, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, Randy? Oh, Josh, do you need to be sworn in? Okay. Josh, do you solemnly?
So the process, if you want to ask us a question.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge? Thank you. Anyone else?
Anybody else want to speak about this item?
I'll introduce myself. I am an Elon resident, taxpayer, and I'm happy to be here. This is my first meeting. My name is Chad Deshmukh. I live in Cable Square on Olson Drive, and that's why I'm here.
Okay, this is specific to this
Correct.
development.
It is.
Okay,
I'm just introducing myself
Okay.
briefly since I've not known anybody here.
okay.
I am an Elon parent as well. So what I'm about to say, or in the testimony.
Okay, we should swear you in if you're
yes,
gonna make any
exactly. That's
testimony.
why I just wanted to.
Well, if it's in regard to the special use permit.
Yeah, it has to be in regard to the special.
Correct, it is.
Okay, so do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank
Can we
you.
get a clarification on your name? I'm sorry.
It's CHET, Chet, last name Deshmukh, DESHMUKH. I'm also a public attorney, public notary.
Yes, sir.
Signage?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen,
So before,
Oh, and your name?
Jim Sykes,
Okay,
I think
and I do not live in the city.
okay, well, just one moment, Carrie.
it's a good policy protocol for the applicant to speak.
Okay.
So that they can clarify their request.
Okay.
And then those who, and you can call the.
Okay, Randy, let's go to your question, and then we'll have Brad.
Based upon the renderings and stuff, I was looking at the drawings. There's no intentions, no special right turn lanes being added. or anything like that.
No, there are no.
So it's just gonna
roadway
be the
improvements.
existing roadway
Yes.
and the addition of that put on. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
With careful attention to the right of way and coordination with DOT, with actually both DOT and the town. So there's both One road's DOTs and the road's ours.
Okay,
I'm good on what we.
Are you sure?
okay. We're gonna have Brad do the formal presentation as the applicant first,
Okay.
And
that'll work for me.
and then we'll open it up.
Okay, smile, guys, you on candy.
Blue light still on that little speaker.
Blue light on.
Yes.
I just want to be prepared, but I'll explain the buzzer if you like.
No, this is quasi judicial, so he has to present the evidence.
Thank you, Town Council. Really, it's very simple. We're just trying to add a sign along University Drive for our guests or new families coming in University Drive, especially from the west, to signify that you now entered Elon's campus. We have those signs on other parts of campus, especially across the train tracks, and this is just to do so on the north side of our property. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Mr. Moore?
Mayor, I have a question. Obviously, this is a rendering. Will there be curb and guttering required? If we do this? We've done in most developments.
No, sir. The University Drive is Josh Johnson, town engineer. The University Drive is a ribbon pavement road, and O'Kelly through that section is a ribbon pavement road. The section where they are putting the bell tower is actually within the existing curb and gutter. So there's no additional curb and gutter there. The signs themselves are behind or well off of behind the right of way, essentially.
Or questions for Mr. Moore?
So the median will stay the same width.
That's correct. We're not changing the roadway at all. We're just adding the signs behind the right of way, and the element itself is behind the right of way.
Assume that'll be illuminated,
It will be.
and the fact that it has a bell, it'll make a noise.
We really won't have a bell in there. It'll be just for a verbal element to signify that you've arrived at campus.
And Brad, isn't there already a bell tower just further into campus on that same street?
On the stadium side, closer to Williamson than to.
Why did-
It's near the
Oh,
football
no, there's a
stadium.
guardhouse there.
That's right.
Okay.
It's a guardhouse. What would the height be of that?
The bell tower's element is about 34 feet tall. 34.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Come on up.
You guys know.
Oh, yes, and just
Deadlines.
really quick, Jill's gonna explain the timer for public comments.
I'm the timer extraordinaire, since we have so many
How much
people
time I
who are
got? 3
actually gonna
minutes?
do it. This is
Fine.
what it'll sound like. You'll go, you're gonna hear that little bell.
Stopping session.
And when you're gonna hear a 3-second countdown, it'll go beep, 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 buzz when the end. If Emily looks my direction, she'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left. This is just to keep us on track tonight.
Mayor, member of council, I'm Jim Sykes, and I have a couple of questions after I looked at this plan to come off of University Drive with the signage and stuff. And one of the things I wondered, when your Board of Adjustments reviewed down there, did they take into consideration the environmental impact? Because on the drawings, it shows where you impact pond and wetlands with 10 acres. So I was wondering if that report was available to the public and that sort of stuff. And another question I had was, when you have the rezoning stuff and your rezones to institutional, how much power does that give you outside normal zoning? In terms of saying I can do this, I can do that, that sort of thing. But if you're looking at it, the drainway is everything from I don't know where the fountain is. The catch basins there all come back this way, down this way, those renovations. Then they go into one outfall type thing, right there where the guardhouse is. And it goes down and helps form those wetlands. And then there's the perennial stream down there. Start messing around with perennial streams and stuff, you can, it's a problem, so you will. So that's my two questions to, have the Board of Adjustments. So, did you, when you were doing this?
Carrie says she can
I'm
respond.
happy to respond to that. The planning board actually did the.
Speak to me louder.
Stopping session.
You won't get a hearing aid.
The planning board.
My
did
wife
the,
talks in the right ear, so that's why.
The planning board did their review, did the due diligence, as well as
Talking
our-
about the Board of
the
Adjustment
Board of Adjustment didn't.
is one and
hear
the
this.
same, right? So you're looking at the codes and that sort of stuff through the Board of Adjustments, a plan and just saying what we're gonna do with this. Right.
So the technical review committee that includes the town engineer as well as DOT and other regulatory authorities. The town engineer regulates our stormwater ordinance for us and stream protection ordinance. That you're thinking about wetlands that are further down in the property that won't be impacted by the development that we're concerned about right now. This development we're looking at is just right at the intersection.
Drawing is shown by you off of University Drive coming towards the guardhouse to the right where the Page property is. That drawing shows your impact in that pond.
Josh, are you?
Yes.
Can we go back to the slide that shows the aerial view?
And there's a pond that's been there for years and years and years, and it will be classified a perennial stream.
There.
Right here.
Well,
In my judgment.
yeah, there's a pond there.
Yeah.
The pond, but the pond is, go ahead, Josh, the impact.
Yes, so the impact for this development is not for the entire parcel. The impact for this development is basically along, if you're looking at 175,823, it's going to be on the upper right-hand corner along that property line, which is uplands, not wetlands.
Well, you see where it says subject property?
Yes,
That is that pond right there you're looking at, right?
that's correct.
And that line comes right across the face of that pine on this drawing that you have, unless you're subject to change.
So that identifies the property that the project is on, but does not identify the site itself. The site itself is much smaller than that area.
Yes.
Okay, let's get that into the drawing in so you can protect the property and hopefully it's wetland.
Next, the technical drawing will show that.
Yes, so to be clear, Mr. Sykes, if you can go back one, Diane. This is not part of their proposal. This is put together for, Carrie put this together for informational purposes of what's being done. Now, if you go to the next slide, Diane, please. Thank you, ma'am.
You're well up. But then we're talking too, so.
This is what they're actually proposing. This is all that they're proposing, and these are shows the limits of their disturbance. If they were to, if at some point, and I know that the university does own what the Page property now.
Right.
That whenever they decide, if they were to decide to do something else on the property, that would have to come back through the same process as these signs are. Where it would have to come back through the special use permit, and get back through TRC for that development. Just because it's on the same property, doesn't link it all together. That everything essentially, one of the, there are lots of ways where the university zoning is helpful for them. There are also ways where restrictions on that. One of those is that all of these development, basically anything they do that has any type, triggers a very low limit, has to come through the special use process.
Well, why do they dance to a different drum?
Because there's zoning of public and institutional.
So you get a little better kick, right?
Not necessarily. There are impacts. Most people don't have to come through this.
I see.
All right, we are going to keep it open to anybody else.
One other question.
Sir, your time is up, sorry. And because,
You have 2,000 cars parking a day.
Sir, you're,
What's the environmental impact? Thank you.
any other comments on this? Oh, Mr. Chet.
Yes. So I guess I just wanted to say I'm in favor of it. And I don't know if I can say that at this point in time, but I am in favor of it only because there's very little signage. And as a parent of the university student, but also as a resident, I think there's a lot of difficulty in finding the main entrance to the university because there are so many openings to the university. And it actually will add value to Elon as a township as well, because it'll direct the traffic in the right direction coming from university, which will also possibly tie into the next item on tonight's agenda, which is the other development. But I just wanted to say that I'm in favor. I didn't expect this to happen tonight, but I guess if there is a way for me to say I'm in support or in favor of, then that's my statement.
Thank you.
Stopping session.
That's all we had sworn in. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, I have just a question though. One of the
We
aldermen,
need to swear Tom in.
or question?
it's a question concerning the,
Yes.
are you going to be making a statement at all?
I'm asking a question only. I'll be glad to ask the question, then you can decide.
Does the media have to be sworn in to ask a question during the hearing?
Ask a question, that's not giving evidence.
Okay.
One of the aldermen or both mentioned the question of the size of the bell tower width in the median. My question is, judging by that picture, it fills out the entirety of the median. Is that in fact the plan?
I
And how wide is that?
think it's around 10 feet. Very similar to our gatehouse, which is located further south. It's like,
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, we will close the hearing. Thank you so much, Mr. Moore. Thank you, Carrie.
thank you.
If you have any more questions of me, I can. move on.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll
you
vote at
were
the next
voting,
meeting.
pardon me. I'm not used to that. Accustomed to it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Carrie. Don't get comfortable because you're next up.
Okay, I'll see right here.
Okay, so we have closed that quasi judicial hearing. We are now going to open up the public hearing. Before we do so, I do want to go over the process we will follow to ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity to address the council. I would ask that all people seeking to speak, please sign in. If you did not already do so, you can indicate on that sheet yes or no if you plan to give a statement this evening. I will need that signing. We will go by the sign-in sheet. indicating, so you will indicate if you are speaking in favor, if you are in opposition, or neither in favor nor in opposition. Once the hearing is open, the interim planning director, Carrie, will make her presentation. This will cover what has occurred to date, an explanation of the project, an explanation of the conditions sought by the developer, what tonight's meeting is about and what it is not about, and what the future steps will look like. Following the presentation, we will accept comments in support of the project. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. At the 3-minute mark, I will interrupt them and ask for the next speaker. Following each speaker, the council members may ask questions. Answers will not be considered part of the 3 minutes the speaker is allotted. Following those speaking in favor, we will ask for comments from those opposed and will follow the same manner, 3 minutes per speaker. I would ask that if a previous speaker has made a point, please take that into account and let us know you agree with a previous speaker and then provide input that has not already been given. Lastly, we will ask if there are any comments from those who neither support or oppose the requested rezoning applications. They will each be given 3 minutes. Presentations will be verbal, written, or a combination of both. Other than the interim planning director, we will not have any digital presentations. Comments from the public can include questions, which should be directed to myself and the council. We will decide whether to answer the question, refer the question to staff, or offer the applicant an opportunity to reply to that question.
Madam Mayor, one small question. For our presentation, as we only have 3 minutes each, we have 4 people speaking to that one specific presentation.
Okay.
We just ask that we be allowed to go in order.
Yes.
Like, we're
Can
not
you-
trying to box
can you
anybody.
Tell me those 4 people.
Yes, Kristen Sherzinkowski will start.
Okay.
Then it's Peggy.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Peggy, what's your last name? again? Teague.
I'm Peggy on here. All right.
Then Josh Trotter back there. And then I will finish our presentation at a. Oh, I'm sorry.
And then who was the 4th?
That was myself, Adam.
Okay.
Not to say that other people won't speak to it, just we are speaking to that presentation that is on your desk.
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much. All right. So any questions about our process? Okay. So we,
There's a question at the back of the.
yes.
Can I just ask that the speaker speak loudly? I was there for last week's meeting and it was almost impossible to hear her. And this is important.
Okay.
Work on directing my voice better to the room, no, rather than just the board.
Any other questions? Your question, Monty, or you're just directing me? Okay, so as we said, we will first accept comments in support of the project. So we will start with Tony Tate, Chad Huffine, Jeff Moore, and Jeremy Medlin. Oh, sorry, never mind. Presentation first. Thank you. I'm glad you all keep me in line, although I have an agenda right in front of me.
Tonight, you are being asked to hold a public hearing for rezoning request RZ 2022-02. Tonight, the decision to be made at your July 12th meeting. Then you're being asked to accept comments from the public and deliberate on this project. Next slide. And I appreciate you're doing this. It's hard to do this and take minutes. Thank you. This property is located just on the northwest corner of the intersection of Shelver Church Road and University. The entrance to the project would be off of University Drive. Greenhawk Corporation Incorporated is the name of the development firm that would prepare the development for future housing development. Parcel ID is as listed. It's about 58 acres. The request is from the current zoning, which is both NR and VC, neighborhood residential and village center, with a traditional neighborhood development overlay to those same districts with added conditions, which would result in a neighborhood residential conditional planning district, village center commercial planning district, and traditional neighborhood development. Next slide. This shows you the current zoning of the property and the area around it. The intersection itself is all zoned with village center. The property in question is outlined in black here, and all the properties adjacent to the north and south, a little bit to the east, are zoned with a traditional neighborhood development overlay and with neighborhood residential. Just very similar to the way this property is zoned. There is some, I think it's public institutional to the left there across a stream. Slide. The concept of conditional zoning should be fresh in your minds as you just recently added this tool to your development ordinance. It's appropriate when a general zoning district is not appropriate for a particular property, I would say, or design. The current LDO does not offer, in the staff's opinion, the variety and dimensions and layout typical of a traditional neighborhood development. Conditions are to ensure compatibility of the proposed use with the use and enjoyment of neighboring properties. Those are, as conditions are considered. It is established and expected to allow zoning regulations and standards that are modified from those in the LDO. So it's the expectation with the conditional zoning is that there will be changes to the regulation of the base district to create a new district particular to this area, to this location. It allows the applicant to propose a neighborhood design that's unique to the location while meeting the needs of the community as envisioned by the Elon Long Range Plan. So it's very important to consider, and you must consider your decision through the lens of the comprehensive plan, as the planning board has. Your role, of course, is to verify that the conditions will result in development that will be visually and functionally compatible, won't material endanger public health or safety, won't substantially injure the value of adjoining property, meets the objectives of any adopted plans of the town. And I've just listed some plans that you have adopted. There are no questions. Next slide. Tonight, we are at the rezoning phase. A rezoning requires a technical review committee recommendation, a planning board recommendation, and then a town council hearing and final decision. Following a rezoning case, the actual development plan would go back through that same process for review by the technical review committee, planning board, and town council, and would include a greater level of development detail than with the rezoning. I think we have one rezoning master plan tonight. The major development plan that would go through this process next would be a packet of drawings, site plans, area specific, cross sections for roadways, which the detail that is not relevant at the rezoning, but will be at that point. Then following those approvals, or at the same time, depending on how the timing goes, the subdivision plats to create the lots will have to go through that same process in greater detail than what you're going to see tonight. So some major, you would end up having major subdivision plans that would go through that same process. Yes,
At this point. So, but at this phase is where we do all of the conditions.
Correct.
So we can't do any conditions in the further steps.
That's correct. This is during the conditions that will be under consideration are associated just with the rezoning and have to be subject to a public hearing. The other processes don't follow the same public hearing process. They are open to the public, the other meetings, but they don't follow the same level of input and sharing that is required when you're considering conditions.
There's any changes, big changes, significant changes that could, that doesn't give us pause to be able to do any changing on that at that point. So,
Changes on the applicant's
well, like
behalf
for
or
example,
on our behalf?
yeah, for example, there's talk about roadway, roadway breakthroughs onto the university. What if
Okay.
that's not approved? What if
Gotcha.
there's a change? What if there's some major changes?
Yeah,
What is that? How does that affect us in terms of?
I can address that. The first condition is that the development be in substantial compliance with the master site plan, the master sketch plan. And a change in driveways, if it would affect the expectation of the public, basically is how I look at it. After you will be, in the public hearing, you will be looking at a particular development and the public will have a certain expectation of what will be there. If that expectation is going to be substantially changed, then it would go through the same process, because the process is about ensuring that the public has an expectation of what's going to be developed there. It's examples, but changes, a lot of changes in use, perhaps different use changes. A major shift in the relationship of townhomes or single family homes. The same with multifamily to other home types. So I'm ready for the next, as long as you understand, you're not approving development tonight. You're approving a conceptual plan, but far from approving actual development. I think I anticipate it'll be the spring before approvals are far enough along for development to start. Applicant says differently, but it's I think that's probably what it'll be, what it will take. Beyond that, there are a lot of, call them sub-approvals, approvals by regulatory agencies. This will be reviewed by any entity that regulates development in the municipality or us on behalf of that entity. NCDOT will review it. The Department of Environmental Quality reviews are going to be done by our engineer, who is expert in those regulations, unless they ask for a fast track or something that goes to the state. But so there's quite a bit of expert review that takes place. Your staff experts have reviewed this as part, and will continue to review it as part of the TRC process. And I've already spoken to our new fire chief about it. He's become familiar with it from Charles. Has talked to him about it. And your staff will also get a good deep dive reviewing it. Are there other questions about the process? You can come back if there are questions.
I do have a question about the process. So because tonight is only the rezoning.
Correct.
I'm just gonna make this up. Okay, this is very hypothetical.
Okay.
So let's say that there was going to be a 4-lane highway down the middle. And we wanted to say, again, hypothetical, 4-lane highway down the middle. And we said, no, we want a condition to be a 2-lane highway. Do we do that now? Or do we do that as part of the major development
You
plan?
do that now.
Okay.
You do that now. And the only caveat to that is if you request, and you may request conditions, as may the applicant and staff. Staff has already had communication with the applicant and suggested conditions. However, I will say your ordinance is fortunately is clear on that. If you propose a condition that that is unfair for the applicant to answer at once, and it's fair for them to state that and ask for time. But the applicant has already requested the conditions that they are going to, they've added some that are in the, when they do their present, and they ought to present next, so you have a good understanding of it. They've added some conditions to address public input from the neighborhood meeting and the planning board meetings.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question, because we had the conditional zoning submittals from the TRC meeting in April. Have all of those conditions already been made?
Yes. Although the conditions that were first requested and went to the TRC are still in place. Some of them have, other conditions have been added, and some of the language has been modified for better clarity, so that in 10 years or 5 years, we talked a little bit about making sure that the language was such that a future planner or other staff member could understand it.
Okay. Next slide.
The same standards, this public hearing, listening to the input from the public. As for a general zoning district, the thing that's worthy of pointing out here is that conditions do need to be, they can vary, they can lower or impose higher standards than those that would ordinarily apply, and that is according to your ordinance. They can be proposed by either the applicant or the town, but they must be mutually approved in order to become part of the regulation that is the district. And the conditions must address, they must be logical. This is the not arbitrary part. The conditions address the future comprehensive land use plan and other adopted plans and impacts reasonably expected to be generated by the development itself or use of the site, not necessarily conditions or impacts that are present now. This site will address their impact to current conditions, and in many of those will be actually improved, especially for the intersection. But this is just asking you to consider conditions and questions that are relevant to your comprehensive plan and the development itself. Next slide. This is an aerial shot that shows the existing condition of the property. Streams, any streams or wetlands on the property will be buffered by 50-foot buffers, vegetated buffers on either side of the stream bank. 20, well, almost 30 of which is existing vegetation, or if vegetation is removed, it has to be replaced to its original state. That is how the streams are protected. There are no known other environmental concerns with the property. As you can see, the shape of the property, there's 2 currently occupied residential lots on Ionosopy Road. It does not include them. Is the location clear? I think everyone understands where the property is going to be located. Next slide. I will address transportation issues first because there have been a lot of questions about them. I wanted to reassure you that no development will be allowed before NCDOT approves driveways and roadway improvements that would be necessary because of the development. A traffic impact analysis has been completed by the transportation engineer who is here tonight if you have questions, and was submitted to NCDOT in April. That's a very normal and customary, in fact, it's ahead of time for that traffic impact analysis to have been submitted ahead of the rezoning to get an answer from the NCDOT. Answer will go through its process and take time, but certainly development ground won't break before that traffic impact analysis is finished and accepted by NCDOT. It doesn't, however, need to hold up a zoning decision. Final driveway locations are pending state approval because the road has reestablished controlled access driveway points. that were actually not as well designed as what the developer is proposing. So they've asked the state for one of the controlled access driveways, openings that exist now, to be moved. And that requires state approval. All of the local regional engineer for the NCDOT has reviewed the traffic impact analysis and had lots of conversations about the impact and about the driveways, and thus far has stated that they are generally in agreement with what the developer has requested. There's not going to be any big red flags to what the developer is offering in the way of turn lanes and such, which we'll go into a little bit. The roadway improvements that are recommended are a dedicated right turn lane southbound on Shalford Church.
Should that be for left turn onto University or should it be right turn?
The southbound right turn lane.
University.
South, yeah.
No,
No,
you'd be making a right turn.
it's a right turn, sorry.
Okay,
The first part's correct.
right.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna go in the right lane to make a left turn. Okay.
There will be dedicated right and left turn lanes for both driveways onto on University to the site, from University to the site. So traffic isn't holding up flow of traffic on University as it turns into the site and out of. There will be right and left turn lanes there.
Traffic study did call for any kind of lights or anything like that at this point.
There will be, there's expected to be some rephasing that NCDOT will talk to the developer about. But it doesn't include additional signalization at this point. The addition of these two driveways and the way the intersection is designed now is considered to be adequately signaled for vehicle traffic. Additional signalization and phasing would be required in the way of pedestrian access if the sidewalk. Talk about that a little bit later too. Thank you. What's that guy? Next slide. 160D 604, this is the enabling statute that allows you to make decisions about land use. It states that you must include a statement of consistency with an adopted comprehensive or land use plan, both the planning board and the council. And this is the bigger point of the comprehensive land use plan is it's intended to anticipate growth over 20 years, over the next 20 years. That's your horizon, your planning horizon for this land use plan. And it's, in order to do that, it divides its recommendations up into goals, objectives, recommendations, and a map, a future land use map. So I've pulled from the goals, objectives, recommendations, and future land use map in order to review the comprehensive plan, in my professional opinion, for this project. And next slide. The staff feels that this project supports at least these 4 goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. Sustainable neighborhoods, areas where businesses and people make the town their choice to live, work, and play. Promoting wellness, active living, and multimodal transportation, and a smart growth decision that maintains our small town characteristics. The neighborhood is very walkable. The mix of uses in the neighborhood connects residents. This would produce an area, a neighborhood that would be attractive to people and businesses considering Elon as a place to live. And I'm telling you that based on their submittal, my planning professional experience and work that I have seen that this particular urban designer and developer are proposed examples of their work, produce quality traditional neighborhood communities. I know it's your decision, but I wanted to share that with you. In my opinion, I think it's fortunate that you have a talented and experienced developer who's in front of you tonight. Oh, okay, thank you. Next slide. There are 4 specific land use recommendations that I feel are appropriate, very appropriate for this project. Encouraging development consistent with the land use pattern that the future land use plan suggests. Expanding housing choices with a variety of housing types. Focusing on quality and experience, that is about the landscaping, the amenities, the way the open space has been set aside. There are a lot of quality elements to the neighborhood that are that come from the design. Organized development is definitely organized around a system of open space with this development. Our economic development goal that I feel best suits the project is that it encourages mixed use development that blends a variety of uses. Our infrastructure goal, a recommendation that we consider land use and infrastructure investments together with a network of complete streets that emphasize the quality and character of the street and surrounding development. The streets within this development itself will be multimodal transportation streets that will improve the character and quality of the development itself. And, infrastructure growth is intended to be headed in this direction. So the planning for this part of the town with our infrastructure expansion are very much in line. Parks and Rec goal recommendation, is that we expand the number of parks, greenways, and other recreation facilities throughout the town. This property suggests this development would have recreational opportunities within the neighborhood and serve recreational needs for all of its residents. As well, other recreational needs, obviously, that the town operates are available to them, but this would amenitize that neighborhood such that those people have a lot of opportunities. Next slide. And 2 slides at once.
Our outside audience is saying they can't see the slides, so
Okay.
it's a second here.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll add that one of the conditions to this project is to extend a 5-foot sidewalk from this project down to university property with the intent of providing pedestrian and bicycle connectivity from the intersection all the way into town. The end goal is for that ultimate connection, which is part of our biped and lighting plan. That area is intended for a connection into town, that to the intersection and beyond. This is the picture that I was referring to, Emily, before when we were talking about architecture. Just sharing that this is a picture I had been discussing with the mayor earlier. It is compatible with our future land use and conservation map, the development proposal that is. The land use and development map identifies this area as mixed use, which is centers of activity and destinations, a mix of uses in addition to a variety of housing types. A mix of uses in our long-range plan is very specific in this, that uses can be either horizontal or vertical. In other words, we encourage a change of use within the same building. Buildings of 2 stories and above are common. This is quoting from our comprehensive plan again. And connected streets include short block lengths and pedestrian facilities. These are all tenets of traditional neighborhood design. Shorter blocks slows the traffic down. Streets are gridded. There are no cul-de-sacs. Everything is interconnected. On street, there will be some on-street parking and bicycle parking, limited to the comfort of our NCDOT and Public Works staff who have looked at the street widths and had some alterations to what you see that produce what you're seeing today to ensure safe travel. And into open space is typically integrated as plazas and greens in this portion of our comprehensive plan, and that is the case for this development. I'll point out what I was sharing, the apartment building in the lower right is not necessarily suited. It's not the apartment building that would be here. The only reason that slide is there is to show a difference in facade over stories. This is a 4-story building, and the top story is colored differently. It's profiled differently. There may be other elements that could be different about that 4th floor or 4th story in order to prevent a long blank brick wall that is the height of a 4-story building. Next slide. The comprehensive plan also includes 3 different focus areas that are identified for growth. And this property is located at the central focus area. I'll be honest, the definition for this area is the southwest quadrant of the University Drive Williamson Avenue intersection. When I look at your land use plan and the current zoning, all 4 corners of that intersection are already zoned for a village center for a more intense development. And so it's my opinion that the intent of this district is satisfied by this development on the northwest side of that intersection. This central area is described as wanting a mix of commercial uses, accessible for people to visit Rhodes Stadium and the Shar Center. It's an ideal location for condominiums and townhouses, this is all quoting from the comprehensive plan. Residents interested in living close to places to shop and eat. We want to encourage development that would provide that. And we want to encourage development that would preserve day and nighttime occupants so that it's not a day only or night only area of town. This is another element that helps to make what is and used to be a traditional neighborhood homes closer together and businesses nearby. It also, this area talks about a greenway along the creek on the western edge to strengthen the connection to downtown. That's a different project. This property, while it goes into that area, does not anticipate development along that creek. Instead, the developer feels that the importance of sidewalk connectivity between the development and town is a desirable element that we have expressed desirability from our long-range plans. The picture on the lower left there is from our comprehensive plan. That is an example of how the plan depicts the central focus area. Visions the central focus area. You tell me if we're ready to move on. Next slide. These are the standards. This is the rubber hits the road piece where we're comparing currently allowed standards and conditions to proposed standards and conditions. I should say currently allowed regulation to proposed regulation. Right now, we allow 275 residential units would be allowed by right in this area. The developer is proposing 200 residential units.
Does that include the apartments?
No, those are the single family
So those are,
townhomes and single family. And that's what the 275 also represents.
okay.
It's single family without counting apartments. The ordinance does not limit the number of multifamily units, and we don't have a actual density limitation. But we do, the ordinance asks that multifamily units are up to 20% of the total type of housing in a development. The condition that the applicant has offered is requested is for the multifamily units to represent 40% of all of the housing in the development. However, they are capping the number at 200. So this sort of a compromise between a no limited number and a percentage. Land uses for those districts right now are described as generalized commercial, retail, and office. They're specified. Your new ordinance will, by the way, have a permitted use table that goes into very much more detail about what use is, but the applicant has listed 12 specific commercial uses that he's offering to eliminate from those that would be allowed. These conditions, by the way, they become recorded, they become the district itself, they become ordinance, and they live with the property, with the lifetime of the property, regardless of ownership, development, timing. They will apply and run with the land.
So they're the only ones that shared what they would be willing to leave out. Did staff make any recommendations of things to leave out?
We spoke to them about, and that's typical where we will ask them to review their uses based on what they are going to lease to in their market. I want them to start. And then they'll come back to us and we'll suggest certain uses that may not be. And I think with the experience that the applicant has had, the uses that they first suggested as being eliminated were spot on with what staff would recommend.
There was no additional ones that
Correct.
staff
No,
recommended.
there weren't that staff would recommend other uses.
This is where a give and take comes in. This is the conditional.
Potentially, yeah. this is one
Conversation.
One piece of it, yeah. I think the
So you
bigger.
feel comfortable with all the other uses?
I do. Yeah, and I feel very comfortable not committing them to specific uses. I feel comfortable eliminating certain uses. But in order to thrive and be a sustainable development, you want whoever is running this development to be able to respond to a market retail use, a market restaurant use, a market that says this, you should have these many restaurants and this type of retail. And so I believe very strongly and have had success as long as the undesirable uses are eliminated, that the uses. And this, excuse me, this district to begin with, that's why the uses are listed as unspecified commercial, retail, and office to begin with currently in our ordinance, is so that there can be some flexibility.
So currently, if this wasn't a conditional and it was just a development essentially without the condition, this would allow for an adult business.
That's
a
correct.
Sweepstake business, a car wash business.
That's correct, because the ordinance doesn't specify which retail uses, it's unspecified commercial retail. Staff would work, with a developer at a time like that and discourage those uses and would usually had success with that, but at the end of the day, it would be something that you couldn't prohibit. Architectural standards that apply now, we do have land development ordinance standards for non-residential development. Law does not allow us to impose architectural standards for 1 and 2 bedroom dwellings. Where the law does allow, however, an applicant to commit to standards for residential 1 and 2 dwelling units, and they have. The standards that they've committed for non-residential are come with more detail to regulate the design than the ordinance for much more building type than the ordinance. every building type that might be in there, there's architectural standards. The minimum lot size is a condition that's been requested. There's no minimum lot size in the village center district at the center. There is a 6,000 square foot minimum lot size in neighborhood residential. The applicant's proposing a 3,000 square foot minimum lot size. This means that lots will range in size anywhere from 3,000 up to 10, maybe 15, but probably more like 5 or 6, but the way the development is laid out. They get out there and find that there's an area where the rock won't allow them to create these 4 6,000 square foot lots. They will be able to create larger lots, still with substantial compliance. That's an example of how that works.
Okay, is that seems like a pretty big difference between 6,000.
Yeah, it's a difference from our ordinance, but the 3,000 square foot lot size is very typical of traditional development, such as this applicant is proposing, and such as our future comprehensive land use asks for. There are visuals that show you what that would look like. It's important to notice that the density is not changing. People per acre is not changing through their conditions. Though the number of people is actually fewer, especially for a single family. They're clustering that use into smaller lots so as to maintain more open space. There's also a point of discussion with the technical review committee, fire response, emergency access, emergency response, and we had discussions that came to basically when a building is closer than 11 feet, they have a higher fire flow requirement. And the way it will be left here is that the developer will have to submit to our town engineer a fire flow plan and to the fire chief, CM, the plan of how fire will be mitigated in the buildings. It might be a variety of things that will be required before development. There was some concern about buildings being too close together. It's again, it's a very typical situation for traditional neighborhood. There have not been any developments like this proposed in Elon before now, partly because of the ordinance didn't allow it, and because there wasn't a conditional option. But yes, it is typical. And as you can see, the open space that we would require with 6,000 square foot lots becomes over 30%, over twice that for with smaller lots. Just for grins, I calculated just on the neighborhood residential side, 50% up to 50% would be open space, undeveloped area. Other change is the relationship of neighborhood residential to village center. Right now, it's 20%, 20/80, more heavily on neighborhood residential. And this development would increase the village center acreage in village center such that the relationship would be more like 60/30, 70/30. So this is just relationship of the two different districts to one another. And I think there is a visual that I'll remind you of what it's depicting when we get to it. This is, it just occurs to me that I was still working on this presentation later in the afternoon. We've just added a link onto the planning webpage for public hearing information. So we've added a new, at the top of the planning page, it says public hearings, click here for ongoing public hearings. And then each case has a link where all the information is available to the public, and I'd be happy to publish the presentation. It just occurs to me that it might be a good idea to put that out there and perhaps right on top.
From the paper had a question.
Madam Mayor, I'm just questioning in line 2, the multifamily units. What does all above commercial mean in that column?
All of the multifamily units will be located above commercial and retail
Second, third,
businesses
fourth floors.
on the first floor. All the first floors will be retail and the apartments will be located above.
But I thought you answered one of the earlier questions that there were a total of 200 single-family and townhouses.
A total of 200 single-family townhouses, a total of 200 multifamily units. The all above commercial just talks about how they're configured. There will be 200 multifamily units all located on second, third, and fourth
Okay,
floors.
so as a layman, apartments, would that be
That's apartment.
acceptable term?
Yes, sir.
But all of the apartments are above the commercial.
That's correct.
Unless I saw something different, though, it looked like there was only about 322 units that they were looking, somewhere in the
Total.
300.
There has, and we talked about this earlier, that the maximum
That's the max.
proposed would be this, yeah.
So you're saying that they're
It's-
between here and the time they get to their actual, there could be some changes.
Absolutely, there are likely to be. I mean, it's a big development that has a lot of elements to it that are costly to explore. So the developer typically waits until rezoning is passed before investing in that next level of detail. And that's appropriate too.
So of course I had, obviously you're talking about second, third, possibly fourth story living. So is that going to constitute requirement for elevators?
That will be a building code issue that would be addressed when construction.
Which, yeah, because
Yeah.
otherwise you limit people.
Yeah,
who
you would,
actually-
yeah, certainly. It would have to be ADA accessible apartments.
The only thing I haven't seen, and again, maybe I'm trying to be patient here, is where's everybody's cars gonna go?
There'll be more- there'll-
This
there'll be
is,
more-
this is really, I just. keep looking at
It's a tricky, good question.
The Carvana, you know. With the,
Don't get any ideas,
I'm
Randy.
Get a little
sorry.
ticket, you get to, if you'll go to the next slide. It's slide 16.
He's mentioning.
Oh, thank you, Rich. Rich, thank you.
Well, it wasn't showing up online.
Okay, good. So
We've gotten it online by Mike, but now I'm not, there we go.
Over here.
So if you'll change,
Okay.
we still need
So
the
maybe you
next
still
slide.
need to advance ours, Diane.
Okay. What do you want me to do, Rich? It's actually, yeah.
Well, I just have questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Carrie, a couple of questions in related to this so that you can help us understand. And one going back, so we don't have to go back slides. We need a little education. You talk about if, you have all these conditions.
Yes.
If the TIA, something goes wrong, let's say that happens, hypothetical for me. So we agree on 40 conditions. They're all there. Because once they're done, they're linked to the property. Something goes wrong. Does that revert the zone? Like what happens if something goes wrong? That's what we don't understand that part.
So the traffic impact assessment, if something is found in that, and it needs adjusted.
Yeah, what happens?
I can explain that. Well, first,
The next slide.
whatever goes wrong means.
Sure.
What goes wrong would mean first is that the DOT would want more improvements, roadway improvements than the developer's engineer has proposed.
Okay.
So they may want additional turn lanes, whatever it is that NCDOT needs to mitigate the impact of this development on that roadway and that intersection. So I've not seen a TIA go wrong. What would become, if it became so onerous that it became prohibitively expensive to develop, then it wouldn't be developed, but yes, the zoning would still apply with these same conditions. So someone else would have to come along, build the exact same thing, or be willing to build the exact same thing, or go through this process again.
Okay, but all right, that's what so just a little clear though. So even if they decide not to, but it's approved, then all these conditions go.
They're still part of the,
So it doesn't revert. Okay, and then on the previous slide, I'm sorry, I'll stop.
and I don't know.
I was trying not to go too far back. I'm
I'll
taking that.
add Adam, that I don't know if our new LMO, and I don't know if it would even apply, is gonna have a time period of, sometimes an ordinance will say if there's no development within 2 years, it can revert back.
Okay, that would be the community would love that, just for the record. Okay. So going back, on the existing, oh, I'm sorry,
Just really quick.
sorry. Oh, yeah.
I want to wrap up the whole presentation.
Let's go,
Okay.
oh, no, never mind, we're in the, these are just some things that citizens had expressed concern about, and what the response was from staff. The safety of the intersection, they're working closely together with this traffic impact analysis and reviewing the impact building height. The developer added a condition at the planning board meeting that would restrict the corner building to 3 stories above grade. There was concern about the existing homes that are right there, as well as the site distance around that intersection. And so, and that building actually would be more iconic than the intersection. So the developer agreed to limit that to 3 stories on grade, and has the specific condition to hand out to you a little bit later. A condition was also added to prohibit construction through Cable Square based on those concerns. Buffers came up. The LDO does specify buffer requirements for all new development. I believe that the applicant has some additional conditions for separation and buffers between the homes that are there now. The area between the development and Cable Square is actually buffered by a easement, pipeline easement. So, and quite a bit of distance. Numbers of homes and apartments there have been concerns about. Is my maximum 150 incorrect? Tony, is it 200? By the chart that was submitted, not the plan.
Current chart reads 250, actually.
Not for multifamily.
Oh, it does. I don't mean to be rude. It just, the one that was available that we were sent, it actually says down there 250.
Well, we'll make sure that.
Speak to that.
We're clear, yes.
Well, Madam Mayor, while we're on that line, that's my same question to the earlier slide. This one says maximum 150 apartments. Previous slide said 200.
Sir, that's what I was just calling attention to that, because there is the master plan has a number and the chart has a number, and I want the applicant to be able to clarify exactly which one that we're talking about. It's the 200 that are in the chart.
The earlier page.
Correct, yes, and it's my bad to have put that up there at all and caused confusion. I was just reflecting another number that was on the plan. So that will be a maximum of 200 homes and 200 apartments. The request for a greater percentage of apartments to single family was a concern, and my response to that is that I feel strongly that vertical construction and going up rather than out helps to preserve green space that we want to have, and that the retail uses on the ground floor of the apartments will also be make it a very different land use than just an apartment complex. The smaller lots, as I said before, are typical for traditional neighborhood development. Clustering of lots does not impact density or land use. Building smaller lots with homes closer together does not impact density, which is numbers of people per mile or numbers of people per acre. It doesn't affect that. It's just it is a configuration. So the land use that you're looking at is single family, multifamily, townhome. And I just wanted to clarify that word density is pretty established in the community as something that means people per acre. And there is some concern about density, and I think what the concern was about clustering. parking and the application address this more, the lots are 90-foot deep, which just means that there's flexibility to create driveway space and home space on the lot. There are rear alleys that supply parking to these homes. So the primary parking will be behind the homes. And there will be garages and plenty of parking available there. I addressed the fire access earlier. Drainage actually runs away from Cable Square. And a technical, water can't be released at a rate that's higher than it is right now. So during development and during the studies that will be presented and the water mitigating water speed measures and quality measures, water has to be released from the site at a rate that is no higher than what it is released from the site currently. And drainage won't affect Cable Square because it actually runs away from some of the concern. We can go to the next slide, Rich. Staff does recommend approval. I feel that multiple elements of the plan, of the comprehensive plan, provide support for the proposal. The illustrations for the central focus area are very much in line with what the development is proposing. The future land use map mixed use suggestion aligns with the intent, and staff does therefore consider the request to be consistent with the land development plan with the conditions requested by the applicant. That's my slide, and will allow. I think the developer is not going to be giving a presentation, but I think they have a handout.
Yeah, before we get started, can I have a motion for a 5-minute recess? I have a request from a counselor for a restroom break.
Okay. I move that we take.
How about a 7th inning stretch?
I move that we take a 5.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we will return at 7:42. I mean, you asked, and I'll take it.
If you need to go, we can go. Entrance or away? Oh, okay, gotcha. He's just, you get Sam to come. Well, he said, look, he said, I'm only staying 2 hours. She's the same problem. I had a feeling.
Well, again.
Townhouses, the last one on the left. You're coming in from the end. Something like that.
I really know what I heard when you.
That's what it.
But the issue became things are right. Sold our house. And we didn't. I'm on the corner of Marshall and Some other side, yeah. I'm gonna go ask. Finding a parking.
Yeah. Interesting part. First.
But
How are you?
Cities, you're going from a previous. Apartments. Yeah, but that's more dance. So bad. Let's shift it back. I'm not gonna- Having. Plan documents alive, obviously. Probably has different numbers in different forms. I know.
Mary Alice. And then they said.
Yes. Right now, before I get up.
Yeah, for the room. You saw that.
Texted me.
Walking right there. The stink guy. See Go get their
I don't know.
Till we tell them. And just go.
Understand that it's already subject to allow certain conditions say that now right now, the ability there.
What's left is my turn.
Certainly.
Square footage.
I have no idea.
Okay, we are gonna get started.
How are you doing, Jack? Good on you.
I'm not a gavel person because I have a loud voice. All right, do I have a motion to readjourn? Rejoin? Convene? Okay. Wow. 7 months in, you think. Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Great. Sorry, back.
Only in case you have more questions, otherwise I'll sit down and podium.
Okay, we are gonna go ahead and open up the public hearing. Just a reminder to everyone that each speaker will have 3 minutes. We will start with those who are in favor. I'm only gonna start with the applicant because I know that they are in favor. So we will start with them, and how should we best split up the time? There are 4 speakers similar to our 4 speakers.
Yeah, so I let them know, I mean, that you'll have the 3 minutes and you'll have the count out for the beat, and then the next person comes, I'll stop until the next person comes up, so you don't. Were you gonna pass something out, or did that already happen? Yeah, and we don't need to take, so when you are ready to speak, then I'll start it. They're gonna go one right after the other.
All right, and who is going first? Who's gonna go second? Okay, and then, okay, and then Jeremy's last.
I will speak up because we're having trouble with names and.
Chad Huffine is the third. And Jeremy Medlin's.
Testing. I can say it not work, but work, you know how that goes.
Are these different from what we've already received? Okay, so not what's in our packet.
It's in addition.
Okay.
Packet of what-
When Diane?
I do.
Right, our official timekeeper will start us off.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. So my name is Tony Tate. I'm a landscape architect, and land planner. My address is 5011 South Park Drive in Durham. Here tonight on behalf of Greenhawk Development in this zoning application case. And I'd like to say that we've been at this some time. We first presented the project to Ms. DeSoto and Ms. Harwood back, obviously before she left. So we started and been working through with Ms. Harwood and Spencer. And now we're looking forward to she comes on board. So project that we have before you, I mean, Spencer went through an excellent presentation, covered all of the bases. And so, you know, the biggest thing that we found was that this development is already proposed or could be built in zoning. So when we started taking a look at the project and trying to determine placement of different items and the way this thing was going to lay out, we came to the realization, I think everybody can see on this map. This map. You see this? Yeah.
Yep.
The existing Village Center District. is
Speak a
located-
little louder. They're trying to hear you in the back. Thank
The
you.
existing Village Center District is located on this corner, as she mentioned. But as you apply the storm drainage buffer around that stream, that's the parcel in half and really limits the development of that. And so even back with Mr. Soto, we worked looking at trying to make the zoning line fit the development that we want to go forward and present. So we're back before this board earlier, presenting the conditional district for you to review and approve. And so that allowed us to move forward with our project. The conditional zoning designation is, as Ms. Spencer outlined, it allows a lot of things. It allows us to limit the uses that we find were objectionable to this site. It allows us to offer conditions to things that the community or the planning staff or you might find needs to be solidified in the zoning process, so that as we move forward, we can make conditions that are advantageous to our development, to make it the development we want it to be, and give you further confidence of what we're going to be doing moving forward. That, along with the master plan that becomes so we are also in complete conformance with the
Time is up.
First 3 minutes.
I'm ready. I can see that so that I don't have to have my own timer. Hello, I'm Jeff Moore. I'm the traffic engineering manager from Gannett Fleming. I performed the traffic impact analysis for this project. It's an honor to work with Greenhawk and high quality work that they do. As part of the analysis, we did a trip generation exercise. We worked with NCDOT and the town to make sure that the scope was correct, that the intersections we were going to study were the appropriate intersections. We determined how much traffic would be generated by this project. As a side, we did not take away for pedestrian or bicycle trips. We'll talk about that in just a second. But we determined how much traffic, we determined how to distribute that traffic through the surrounding intersections and the surrounding infrastructure. And then we conducted modeling to determine how that traffic would impact the intersections that we studied. We also, as part of the TIA, we made recommendations. Those recommendations are part of the TIA. It's TIA has been, as mentioned, submitted to NCDOT, who has given us their conditional approval. Basically, we will get final approval once the control of access relocation has been settled. The existing accesses off of University Drive were determined a long time ago without a specific plan in mind. So what we're requesting is that one of those be modified to fit this plan. And once that's approved by NCDOT, they'll give us the final approval for the TIA. As it's also been mentioned, the pedestrian connection, which will go all the way to the campus, having that accessible connection with appropriate traffic signalization, the walk, don't walk signs, appropriate crosswalks, high visibility, et cetera, will allow for a safe, accessible crossing for pedestrians, and it would be a safety improvement for pedestrians. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have to get further into the details of the study. That's pretty much what I have about the traffic impact analysis.
I only have one quick question. I'm not sure you'd be the appropriate person for this, but it sure seems like right off of the university, there seems to be a lot of drops onto the property. Is he the one to answer this question, or should I ask one of you? I mean, just saying from a traffic standpoint, road standpoint, is there going to be a lot of those drops remaining, or is there going to be some way of filling that in, or how's that all going to work?
Okay, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
I'll wait till him.
Sure,
And
that
maybe I
is
can
in
ask
the-
that question.
That's in the controlled access right of way.
And I don't need a long answer. I just need just some idea, because I just wanted, because as I drove by there, I just wanted to, it looked to me like there, it kind of goes down. Okay, thank you.
Just a couple more seconds then about my background, if that helps. Because I had about.
I stopped the clock because when your time doesn't run when they're asking questions, but you can't really add to the question.
Okay, I was just gonna say I am a licensed professional engineer.
Okay, thank you.
You did have a little time left.
Okay.
You got 30 seconds.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Access to Shalford Ossipee Road, that side there, where is that?
There's actually no access plan other than, through the two existing stub outs there in Stone Gables. And then it would come out onto Elon Ossipee and then through this intersection at Shalford to, but that's a very small percentage of the traffic that is expected to be generated. The opportunity exists for Stone Gables to.
Excuse me, if the folks can please keep it down. We all know there's a hard time hearing, so.
I don't want to keep track of your time. I'm going to keep it up on this little, you see that pretty well?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that helpful?
Sharp, council members, Chad Huffine, civil engineer for the project 505 East Davis Street. Been asked to do the civil engineering work on this project, thankfully,
Order, please.
We've been asked to do the civil engineering work for Jeremy, and we're grateful for that. We're also grateful to bring this to the town of Elon. It's been about a year since we started this process, and we're grateful. There is no connection to Elon Ossipee Road. There are two connections proposed from University Drive. Those will be at grade at the highest point along the ridge lines where they controlled access point were placed in the best condition they were known at the time, that the property was taken for additional right of way. Now that we actually have a plan, we need to move one of those access points to move it to a preferential topographic location. So I hope that answers that question. I would advise council that as we progress through the night, we have three professional engineers, myself, Jeffrey, and Josh, who are free to speak to us about technical items to get a good answer from all the perspectives so that you are as informed as possible as questions come up. We are all used to this and we'll be glad to help and answer objectively. Tony is a extremely well-qualified landscape architect I've known my adult life. So I'm proud of the design he's put in front of you. Now he's given me the task to make it work. So we'll do our best to do that in confines of the town's ordinances. Specific to storm drainage, we are required to retain runoff back to the pre-development conditions. So what Carrie was speaking to earlier is if there's X amount of water coming off our property, we're required to do that for the 10-year storm. In most cases, we're able to do that for the 25-year storm. In regards to conversations with Stone Gables versus this project, our project has to take its own water back upon itself and discharge it at a particular rate, pre-development rate. So there will be no discharge of stormwater onto the adjacent properties to the north. I think there was another question about sewer at the planning board meeting. Sewer goes to existing city infrastructure. There are no pump stations proposed. Street width were addressed at several points in conversation where streets are narrower than the current city standards. Those garbage collection apparatus will be privately contracted so that the city does not put out its larger vehicles in a narrower street. Had a question about the width of the combined gas easement, overhead power easement. That's about 163 feet of area that we're not able to work in, and that will be left as it is now. With that, I'm going to stop and let Jeremy come up, and then please ask us questions as we progress through the night. Thank you.
You want us to wait and ask you a question?
Fire away. I was watching Jill, so she's
Okay.
Our questions don't count on anyone.
They don't count against your
Yeah,
time.
no, I've stopped it. You had 8 seconds left.
So, most, the new special zoning allows for a much thinner clearance of homes. And I've seen the treatments and how you have that. So I'm gonna get back to parking. Just how do you fit that many cars when there's not that, when there's not that much space? Because I would imagine that there's still square footage that will allow for family, a family to live in there, quite possibly. My worry, of course, is that I'm gonna see 4 college students living in those houses. So I'm just trying to figure out how 4 cars are gonna fit there. That kind of thing.
So as a function of the single family or units, they're based on the number of cars per home. So in this case, we'd have
Chad?
2 cars.
Sorry.
We'd have 2 cars per single family home. Some of those homes would have garages, some would have alley access. So we'd accommodate the town requirements for each of those residences. For commercial use, it would be based on square footage. For high intensity retail, vehicle rate would be 1 parking space per 200 square feet of floor area. For apartment dwelling unit, have somewhere between 1.25, 1.5 to 2 cars per apartment unit. So it's our job to figure out how to. It's our job to figure out how to fit those spaces, model those spaces, and add those spaces all together with the floor area of dwelling units. So when you have a multi-story building, you have to have an additional parking area. Some of those may be under the building, some of those may be around the building.
Yeah, because I was wondering that too, because that's another part of that I would like to ask. If, obviously, that's how things are studied, but in reality, you could have as many as 4 cars per household. And I saw that in one of the conditions, there's going to be a housing association. Is there any going to be kind of idea that they have to be, that there would have to have their cars off site somewhere, or kind of in some neighborhoods, they don't allow certain parking in certain areas, like on streets and stuff like that. I'm just wondering, where in the world would they park their cars if they can't park them in front, if they can't fit them all in front of their house?
So part of the issue that we would have is how many cars fit in the garage. For a 1-car garage, 1 car would fit in the garage, you'd be 2 in the driveway off the right of way. So it'd be 3 for 1 house. So as it expands from there, you have a dimensional constraint. The driveway's 2 cars wide, 1 car in the garage, that's all you're gonna have.
Then the alley is also going to allow parking as well?
That's up to the homeowners association, and it may be better answered by Jeremy. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how to answer that yet.
Okay, well, that's one of my biggest concerns.
We all have a concern where the cars are gonna go, and that's my job to figure out where they're gonna go.
Okay, thank
And we do have an ordinance that speaks to vehicles not being permitted to block the sidewalk. I would say that probably everyone in this room knows that it is not enforced very well. We can put that in the minutes. So what are you going to do? Like, does the length of that driveway address that? You can get those 2 cars in that driveway, because we know people don't like to get rid of their stuff and fit their car in their garage. So how many cars are gonna fit in that driveway without blocking the sidewalk?
So we will be required to store cars outside the right of way on private property. So the driveway stem outside of the right of way to the front of the house would be at least 20 feet long. You wouldn't put 2 cars end to end and double park. You'd have them side by side. If there's 16 feet of driveway, there'd be 2 cars there, and that'd be all. But we would not be allowed by enforcement or a good design practice.
Just another question about, it was mentioned earlier by Carrie, but about the stoplight situation. So in looking at this with the traffic study so far, it didn't appear that we need to be stoplight at either one of those entrances.
That's correct. When we heard the word phasing, we may want to talk in terms of signal timing or length of different times of green, yellow, and red. Stoplight at the intersection of University and P. Shallow Church Road, the timing of that signal may change. The addition of signals at these 2 proposed intersections are not requirements of the traffic study.
Sir, may I add just a little bit to that? Also, with the proposed right turn lane, there's the opportunity to add what's called a right turn overlap, which allows people to turn right while people turning left on NC 100 on the University Drive. So if you're on University Drive, you're turning left. There's also the opportunity for people to turn right out of Shallowford Church Road onto. So that helps with the efficiency. So that's where the turn lane doesn't just help by allowing people to turn right. And it helps by allowing them to turn right when other phases are operating. So if that helps.
Ask a question, please. Yeah, on this.
Are we allowed to have, they have to all be directed at us.
Okay. Yeah, I thought now.
Only to the wall.
Okay, that's fine, I know what the board is.
Okay.
Okay, my question is this, when was that study conducted? Because if you go on Shalford or Chicken Road or whatever they call it, it usually house up right in there, probably like when kids are getting out of school, your school buses, people coming home from work. So what time of day were they doing the study and when was the study done?
We can have that addressed.
Jeremy Medlin, I'm with Green Hawk Corporation based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been a land developer for roughly 20 years, not an attorney, not an accountant, just a land developer. Predominantly, my experience has been in Cary, Holly Springs, Raleigh, and Apex over the course of that 20 years. Green Hawk Corporation's biggest project is in Green Fork Ranch, which is in Greensboro Road. We have roughly 1,500 home sites there that are already occupied. And ultimately, we'll probably have around 3,500 to 4,000 units there. So we are a significant developer in the triad and in the triangle. We typically do about 500 units, 600 units residential lot preparations per year. We also develop office, flex space, and warehouse space. Currently, we have the Peak City Business Park located in Mayfest. That's 315,000 square feet of office and flex space. It was predominantly built during the pandemic. Just wanted you to know who we are, what we're about. We love your town. We love Elon. We're not trying to change Elon. We're just trying to cultivate something here that would be very complimentary. I know that there's several people here in this audience that don't agree with that, but what we proposed on that plan, the logical transition in density and uses. We're proposing multiple home types, multiple square footage ranges, multiple price points. It would be quite appealing to many municipalities that we would bring this to. Asking for your support tonight. What we have proposed goes over and beyond, I think, what was required. We're proposing an extensive pedestrian extension. It's up to the board, up to the council members. It's roughly like 1,500 feet of additional sidewalk. There's an art features. We're proposing electric vehicle charging stations. And this will be a very thoughtful development. And I just would really appreciate your support tonight. As Carrie mentioned, this is a multi-year relationship. And I think I mentioned this last time I was in front of you. This is a partnership. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. The level of detail that a lot of these folks want will take hundreds of thousands of dollars, numerous studies to identify every concern that they have. We'll be very thoughtful, and we've been the better part of this year in the spring of 2023 formulating that plan. Thank you.
I have a question. I was really thankful that you had the reliefs and the different things with all of the different types of housing types and things that were in there, and that there was going to be either hardy plank or other things and not vinyl siding. Is there going to be the possibility of brick as well, or is that going to be based upon whoever purchases the property?
I think you'll see a lot of brick. I think you'll see a lot of masonry, stone treatments and whatnot. Again, we want to be very complimentary of what has happened here in downtown and embrace that. So brick, stone, hardy plank, better fit features than you see.
Right. Okay. And based upon the density here, the cost points and such, are we going to see a great deal, like large blocks are gonna be owned by, more than likely owned by people who are gonna rent them to other people?
The investor market is a very real thing, and it is something that's going on in the Triad Triangle. This community is not cultivated to be built to rent. Granted, we wouldn't forbid it. It's not, it's cultivated to be a for sale neighborhood.
And I could talk to staff about that too. But I mean, obviously, one of the greatest points that I see is that it's right across the street from the university. So I'm just wondering if it's just going to become a student center. Is there any safety features around that? I mean, I guess because you're going to have single family dwelling units, but it just seems like it's going to have a great deal of appeal to you know, some of the wealthy families that live in the area or that, you know, send students. So, had you guys given thought to that? Or?
Typically, we don't have rental restrictions in our communities because it's difficult to enforce. You know, if someone decides that they want to move on and, you know, retain their home, or they need to go overseas for a year or something like that, we don't want to be an obstacle. What we are proposing is multiple home types. When we see this as a for sale neighborhood, we see this as a place, and I think you guys are all aware that we are in a real dire housing shortage throughout North Carolina. And where your children want to live, where your grandkids want to live, where your parents want to live. It's a real problem, and we were doing our part.
I have a question. Do we need to ask the staff at all to comment on that? I mean, there's nothing we can do about that, right? I mean, university families could just go ahead and purchase that, anything that they want, right?
I don't think we have the ability under state statute to regulate who buys these homes. There are avenues that you know, some projects are built with age restrictions of 55, you know, plus or something like that. And they enforce that through an association of some sort. I know there have been some homeowners associations, I know down in the Charlotte area, at the association level, they've instituted restrictions that you have to live there 2 years before you can rent it, to avoid having what you're seeing, having somebody come and buy 30 homes and then turn them into rental units. Towns don't have that ability.
We don't have the ability to make a condition. Are we able to put conditions that are required as part of the HOA?
Under the conditional zoning, you can suggest conditions. But as Carrie pointed out earlier, they have to be mutually agreed upon. So you can't unilaterally place a condition on the development. You can offer them and, you know, try and work something out, but you can't require them carte blanche. And that's an issue of state statute. Thank you.
Is anyone else here to speak in favor of the development? Okay. We will now move on to those speaking in opposition. We will go down the list and well, technically we are going to start with Kristen. Don't ask me to say your last name.
Really? You talking a little time? Kristen Trizankowski.
Trizankowski.
That'd be great.
And then just for record, we're gonna go Peggy Teague will follow, Josh Broder, and then Adam.
No relation.
And then we will start from the top of the list following that time.
I'm Kristen Trizankowski. No one has to say my last name. I'm already done. I am proud and delighted to call myself both a resident of Elon and Cable Square community. And I'm here speaking on behalf of my community's concerns. First and foremost is the usage of conditional zoning. This is fairly new. It was introduced back in March and is relatively an untested tool for the town to use. And there are lots of concerns within the community of, is this the right way to go about it, using a new tool? With the size of this project. After doing some personal research into chapter 160D, which was riveting every single word of it, I found that conditional zoning is so complex and has the capacity to introduce so many problems that the UNC School of Government actually offers a service to local governments to review the code and to ensure that it actually complies with the intent of 160D. The other concern that we have is this is not just moving a zoning line. This is also adding the conditional zoning on top of it. That conditional zoning is shifting from 275 single-family homes to 200 single-family homes, 200 multifamily homes, and 100,000 square feet of commercial space. The way I do the math on that is that does definitely increase the density of the total number of people per acreage, as well as over 50% of the density appearing to become renter occupied as opposed to owner occupied. This also, on top of everything else, includes multiple 4-story buildings not seen elsewhere in Elon. And that was actually the end of my statement.
Next is Peggy Teague.
OW.
Hello, and thank you, Mayor and council members, for allowing us to speak on this. I'm Peggy Teague. I live at 739 Marcy Trail in the Cable Square subdivision as well. And I just want to take a minute to say why. I moved from Raleigh, and I moved because my neighborhood was beautiful. It had a house that met my needs and my parking needs. It had provided a place to walk, friendly people. It's close to the university, and I've always been associated with the universities or colleges. And I like the programs and the cultural activities that offers me. There's nearby restaurants. It's easy to get around to Burlington or Gibsonville or Greensboro, wherever I'm going. And I'd sum that up by saying it has that small town charm that I love. And that's why I came here. But I have concerns about the Park Northwest development because it seems to be speeding through the system. These conditions we've not known about for a long time. And it was, as was evident in Carrie's presentation on behalf of the planning board, it's happening so fast that even the staff doesn't appear to be able to keep up with it. There's some discrepancies in the information that we were given ahead of time that was presented tonight. And I guess my biggest plea is for you to slow down and take time to really do the due diligence and be sure that you're representing all of us and not just a select group of people. The traffic is an issue. There will be roads butting up to roads in our development, and that will create problems. We have enough traffic already in our development. The Elon Ossipee Road intersection is very difficult to see and maneuver to get out to Shallowford Church Road and then to the stoplight. So that presents an issue. And it backs up at the light on University and Williamson already. Traffic in our neighborhood is already enough. There are problems with others trying to cut through the neighborhood to get to a light, since there's not being traffic lights proposed in this new development. I think that's an issue. Pedestrian traffic is next to impossible. You cannot cross University to get to Williamson without there being officers there to direct you. The one time I did it, there was officers there, but I don't risk my life. I just want you to hear us that we're not against development, but we do want you to slow down and make sure that these conditions are not just being rushed through. We want to be sure that they're safe. Thank you. I have to get home to look after grandchildren.
Thank you, Peggy. That was great.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the Town Council for allowing us to speak tonight. My name is Josh Trotter, Trotter. I live at 574 Olson Drive, which is in Cable Square community. And I am in opposition of the current plan as it is presented. I'm here to speak about cost impact to the town. We all know that more homes brings more people, whether it's you try to define dense or density or however you want to name it. More homes means more people, which increase the cost of public safety. Police officers, public services such as trash service, water service, and sewer services as well. Next point, I'm an educator in the elementary Springs school system for 19 years. And I was, my mind goes to how's this going to impact the public school system? We just had a new Elon Elementary School that was that just opened up. Western Alamance Middle School is currently overcrowded. Western High School's at capacity, if not more. And I know there was a recent bond that was passed, but facilities are still playing catch up. And I kind of question how these homes and these folks that come here, how that's going to impact those schools as well. I would encourage those conversations to take place with representatives from the school system, to kind of make them aware as well. We've all heard about traffic. I teach at Highland, which is right off University Drive. I know this is going to impact me as well for my commute. Traffic is going to be a concern. And my final point, talking about the small town charm. One of the reasons that my wife and I chose to live in Elon, to raise our family here, is because of its small town. And I'm originally from Randolph County, small town of Randleman, Level Cross area. So I love the small town charm. This proposal seems like it's going to take that away and damage that with 3 or 4 story buildings, parking lots, however many cars there are for all these homes. I know they've taken a great deal of time to plan accordingly. We all know theory and practicality are 2 different things once we get going. I'm not against growth. I know it's going to happen. As a school teacher, I've seen our numbers go up. But I do ask that we have too many homes, growth too rapid without staying ahead of that curve, without staying ahead of the plan, and having a more solid plan in place is going to severely hurt and damage town of Elon and their small town charm. So again, thank you for your time.
Trzankowski. I'm also in Cable Square. Talking about density first. The existing village center zone with the setback and the river is almost unusable at this time. You can't get anything there. You can't get sex shops. You can't get anything there. You can't put huge buildings there. We disagree with the view that this is not an increase in density. We don't understand how. They say you can have unlimited apartments there right now. Please build them. I am ready. Put them into current code and show me how many people you can put there. You can't. So from our perspective, we see this as a near doubling of housing density over the current zoning. 100,000 square feet of commercial business. And that's all, at least doesn't seem like primarily owner occupied. That to us does very much look like renter occupied. And the commercial space will be zoned and geared towards the college students, which is not negative, but that's what we see. When I look at the plan, I don't see young families and senior citizens making Elon their forever home there. I see 200 or more apartments and townhomes with bright young college kids getting their education, and then they're moving on. That's what I see there. I see lines of cars going up and through Stone Gables and down to get to the light because that's the safest way to make a left or to get to campus. I don't see coming out, making a blind left to go down here. And then on top of that, once you're there, we all know how Williamson is. That's where it's going to funnel. This road can't handle all those kids, all those people. I don't see that. This looks amazing. I've seen it in downtown Raleigh and midtown Raleigh where I work, where it fits perfect and causes huge traffic issues. So, as everyone said, I have to ask again, why are we rushing this? Why are we going to vote on this in 2 weeks? I love this town. And again, that's why I choose to commute from here 65 miles to Raleigh to work, because I love it here. I love my neighborhood. I love these people here that I'm humbled to speak for. So when I've had like 2 weeks to become a zoning, a traffic, a planning, a development expert, when they've been doing this for years. So I've got 36 days to convince you to at least slow this up. And that's almost gone. And we have 4th of July over that. So the fruits of my research are in your packet. Please read it all. It's very boring. So if you take one thing away from this, I ask that it's this. Yes, there's a master plan, but once you vote for those conditions, they are part of that land forever unless that 2-year moratorium, if they don't develop, whatever. We didn't know about that, sorry. That's it forever. And you lose your leverage to negotiate. We have to negotiate now before. You can't control those zoning conditions with a master plan. You can't control them by amending the LDO. You can only change them through the rezoning process. So thank you for your time. Almost made it.
Okay, next on the list, I believe it's Jamila.
I'm gonna have Adam speak. for in about 3 minutes.
Did she yield her time to me?
Are we, should we say that we were all individually? Would you like to come up and speak?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Okay. And just remember, questions can be directed toward the board.
I will also, by the way, answer questions about our opposition if that does come up.
Good evening, everyone. Question for this for you is that if this development is completed, if you have vacant buildings, because I look around the city of Burlington and Elon, really doesn't have anything going on here. But I mean, when you look at other cities and you see all these vacant buildings, and they're building all these complexes for new businesses or the ones that already are here established, they're moving in there, but it's still vacancies. And my question is this, whether or not, what's gonna happen if that place does not sell the way they're trying to sell it to us? What are we gonna do about this vacant lot that's sitting here with these buildings just sitting there empty? So that's gonna be an eyesore for all of us. And you know, we're going into a recession. I say we already there. Interest rates have risen. So people aren't gonna be out there buying homes just like that, the way they're anticipating. Until you see this stuff gets better in time, then look at it. But at this time, we got too many vacant buildings throughout the city, and wherever else you look, they steadily building, but not refurbishing these buildings we have that are just standing there. That was my concern.
And so I will ask our economic develop, yeah, you can stop our time to address this, but we are at 100% occupancy in the town of Elon. And we have a long list of businesses that do want to be here. So just to answer that particular question, I mean, that doesn't, you know, deal with this particular development, but we have a lot of businesses that want to be here, businesses that are in Burlington, in Gibsonville. They want to be here because they know that businesses thrive in the town of Elon. Look at what happened during the pandemic. We didn't lose a single restaurant. Other municipalities cannot say that. So, do you have any comments about our occupancy or? Mhm.
Well, I think what maybe, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Jamila.
We call it Jack.
Okay.
And I mean, I live in Alamance County too, and you can drive around, you see a lot of vacancies, but it is not in the town of Elon, and this is the town that we're talking about. People pound down the door every day wanting to have retail business, if you're referring to the retail part. And just a point to make that the developer can talk about is, this is not gonna all happen at one time, this is a phased project. So, as far as it being a bunch of vacant buildings sitting there, it's a phased program. All built at once and then you have the whole development.
Is Chad allowed to respond at all?
I just want to ask a question. Address of the speaker.
Oh, okay. Address of the speaker is 4143 Ralston. Next we have Kathy Beal.
Can I ask a question?
During your time, sir.
I don't have the time. I just wanted to ask one question.
Uh-huh.
Has anybody addressed what is going to happen to University Drive? Do you really think, and I've been in Raleigh, law enforcement officer, if you think University Drive is going to stay 2 lanes all the way to Burlington and Glen Raven, down the road, the state of North Carolina is not going to ask Elon whether they can build a road. They're going to build it. How is that going to impact what is proposed in this building in Cable Square area? And it will greatly impact it.
And what I can say to that is that there is proposed development all across University Drive, in Elon, in Gibsonville, in Burlington. You know, NCDOT can do whatever they want with their road, unfortunately. And, you know, we see that all over town on roads that we don't control. And it is an unfortunate thing, but that isn't on it's not on the town of Elon in terms of what gets built all the way across University Drive, because we don't have jurisdiction over it. Eventually, I mean, when that road was built, it was built for development all the way across it. I'm not saying where I stand either way. I don't even have a vote on this, but I just think that, you know, we have to take that into consideration, that the state can do whatever they want on their roads, with or without us. Just 1 second. I know you're on the list.
Well, I know, but I just wanted something you just said.
Well, it will take from your time.
I just wanted to respond to a remark you just made about development on University Drive.
Okay.
I went to every meeting when they built it. They said it wouldn't be nothing. You couldn't develop off of it. You couldn't pull off. It was to be a bypass.
I don't know that any of our board members were here during that time to say, and I don't think any of our staff.
Got all the old material where they built it.
You have anything to add to that, Josh?
Yes, so University Drive at some point is very likely to become a larger bypass. It is designed as a bypass. That's why it has controlled access. Is the reason that the developer has to go through the process of moving those controlled access points. The development that's proposed is beyond the right of way of that. There's enough right of way on University Drive to extend it to match the typical section from where it crosses Haggard Avenue going back. That's a 4-lane divided highway essentially. So the right of way is already there to build the road within that existing right of way. When that happens, that's a unfunded, unplanned, or very future planning department. Very future Department of Transportation.
There's no plans in the foreseeable future.
That's correct. They have, yes, the intent is there. At some point, it will become a bigger road. At some point could be
Right.
decades and decades and decades and decades. Does that answer?
Thank you. All right, Kathy Beal.
No, I'm not, I didn't check.
Oh, okay, sorry, you're right. You did it, my bad. All right, so next up to speak is Reed Cardwell.
Hey, my name is Reed Cardwell, and I live at 2815 Durham Street in Burlington. So obviously, none of this directly affects me beyond my route to Huffman Mill, Alamance Crossing, that kind of thing. However, I am within your future planning area. And I've heard several things said tonight that the things we do here for this, we have to do in the lens of the future planning area. So what I'm hearing is precedent. We're setting precedent for some conditional type things that we don't really know going into it what we're going to get. And being within that future planning area, that concerns me. So I guess I'm here sort of representing those of us who are outside the city limits, but will soon be. Because I find as I order things online more and more, Elon 27244 comes up more often than Burlington 27217. So I just want to make sure that whatever we do, whatever conditions we set are good, not just for this, not just for these guys here that have their concerns, but for the long-term plan. For those of us who are not yet part of Elon, but will soon be part of your family. Because I want to see things done well. Alamance County has a good, we're known for being a small town type feel, and I'd like to keep that. That's why people from the Triad and from the Triangle, as Adam said, that's why they live here, because it's small, and we like to keep it that way as much as. But I'm not against development. I'm not against what you guys are trying to do, and I see the give and take, and I appreciate that. But I want to make sure we need to just slow it down just a little bit so we can get it done right.
Joe Alexander.
My name is Joe Alexander. I live at 423 Olson Drive, Elon. I lived there for 13 years. It's the first when home was built. I've been on the board of directors there ever since we first started. I've been a member of the Elon community since 1962, off and on. Married here, I lived here, I lived in other places. I lived in 17 different communities, 7 different states, 1 foreign country. I lived in the Bay Area of San Francisco. During the boom of building that thousands of acres turned into houses overnight. I've never seen a development that is as condensed as this one is. I haven't addressed setbacks tonight. I haven't heard. But one condition of this is 3-foot side setbacks, 6 feet between houses. This is a very condensed development. Very condensed. You as a board, as a town council, have a decision to make. That decision is going to lead the future of this town. What the future is. What you do here is going to set a precedent. The developer's going to see what's done here, and they will follow it. I ask you to make the right decision.
Making sure that I'm getting everybody. Pat Hall.
Did I use my time up?
Yes. No, you didn't use your time up yet.
Do I have to come up there? My name is Pat Hall, and I live at 826 Elon Ossipee Road, and I've lived there my whole entire life, in a house that my daddy built. My concern, when I come out and I look, and we're talking about the building that's on the corner that affects me the most because it juts right up against my property. And I haven't been able to find out how much they have to stay away from my property. Nobody's been able to tell me, how far. I mean, when I looked at it, it looks like 0. Like, well, okay, are they going to build right up against my house? Well, I did get them to bring it down to 3 stories, but that's still a lot. And traffic, and you have when you set out on your porch with the traffic, because all that traffic's going to be right on me. But my biggest thing too is when I pull out to my road and I'm looking out at this commercial building that looks like it's right on the road. I can't tell how far off of the road it is, and that's another thing I have to have an answer to. It doesn't look like we're gonna get an answer until it's approved. But, you know, I think, well, is that visually going to, when you're looking to see when traffic's coming off the, turning on University, I mean, on Elon, this road stuck out at the road with 3 stories, you know, how well are you gonna be able to see there? Because anybody who lives out there knows that traffic, it comes off fast. It doesn't, it's slow moving traffic. Or if you pull up to the stop sign where you want to turn back to go down Shelford Church Road, you know, how much is this going to block the vision? These are my concerns. I'm hoping, you know, I don't really have that much against this neighborhood. But that commercial building and apartment building stuck right there, to me, shouldn't be there. That's what I'm asking.
Thank you. Can we ask the developer a question right now? Yeah. Can you let us know what the distance is between that apartment building and this house?
So if, part of the material or the collateral that Tony Tate passed out, has got a condition in there that limits spacing from this hall's property line to the building. And also gives some clarity on some buffer. So it is a proposed condition.
I don't.
It's number 5 in the sheet that he passed out.
Oh, okay. So a setback of 25 feet from the property line. And, okay, a minimum building setback of 25 feet from the property line. And Ms. Hall, do you know how far your property is from the property line?
How far my property,
Like your home from the property line, just to get an idea of how far so you can have your question answered?
I mean, I'm not on my property line, but I don't know how far it is.
Okay. Well, you know, when you look at it, they're gonna be at minimum 25 feet, so at least you do have that answer.
We can drop down an aerial and do a measurement to give her the comfort or the knowledge. Chad, I think that's her information. So
Thank you. Okay, now we have Jeffrey Burnett.
Thanks. 349 Olson Drive. I've been an Elon resident for 37 years, 31 on Truett Drive, where I had the benefit of conditional zoning for the 70-foot light poles. Students to play, 6 years at Cable Square. I want to thank the town council and the mayor for their time. I was appointed with the planning and zoning department in terms of getting back to me about emails, phone calls about various meetings. It's bad when a project of this dimension is going on. I respect the town council's role of the financial considerations for the town. We have a lot of property that doesn't pay taxes or doesn't pay full value taxes. I'm concerned about the number of conditions.
Can you hold for just 1 second? Is there an emergency? Thank you. Okay, I apologize.
That's okay.
Yeah, if you can just restart, because I didn't hear any of it because I was looking at the emergency outside. Thank you.
From the very beginning.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Jeffrey Burnett, 349 Olson, 37-year resident of Elon, 31 on Truett, 6 in Cable Square. Thank you to the board, aldermen and mayors. And I'm a little disappointed that the planning and zoning department has been less than communicative with something as important as this, especially as how long it's been going on. I just want to get that on the record. I respect the board's efforts for the fiscal thoughts related to the community and the fact that we have a lot of property that doesn't pay taxes or doesn't pay. I'm concerned about the extent of the conditions on this, 6,000 to 3,000. How many apartments? And apartments are itinerant housing as opposed to homes, which are usually going to be more likely owner occupied, although we have houses in Cable Square that are owned by Elon parents. So I'm concerned that the zoning may make this area unrecognizable, and others have pointed out that it's etched in stone once it happens. I'm a little uncomfortable with the shopping district emptying out into a long-established residential district. And the proposed connections to the stub roads puts it well back halfway into our development. And if easy things being easy, people are going to come out there if they're heading north or if they want to make use of the traffic light. We don't need the traffic through our development. I would heard many times that the stub roads have always been planned to maintain continuity and safety. There's been no safety issue for the 15 years the development's been there. If there needs to be a connection to this development, there should be one connection, and ideally one that it's uncomfortable to use. So if a fire engine needs to come in, EMS, police, multiple rumble strips are fine, but if somebody's thinking, boy, do I want to go over 8 humps like they have in Wildwood Park? Probably not. That would be a solution from my point of view. And the last thing, we've heard a lot about expert testimony and planning. I'd like everybody to think of University Commons parking lot up at Target. That was planned by an architect.
No, I know. Meant from everybody on that one.
Just to confirm, Robert Cornegay, you did not want to speak.
He's here.
Okay. Something Brown, Diane?
Me, I wasn't gonna speak, but I will.
Yeah, because I,
Right. Good evening, everyone. I am Mackenzie Brown, and I live right around the corner on Front Street. I wasn't even gonna come tonight, but Samira talked me into it, and I'm glad I did. I've been selling real estate for 17 years, and my family is part of the downtown community. We've been part of the commercial businesses for over 40 years. So anywho, I'm all for growth. Obviously, I'm all for houses for people to live in, but I was writing some notes down, and I don't know if everybody knows, and you can confirm this. There's 43,560 square feet in 1 acre, correct? Their site that they're gonna build is 3,000 square feet. Compute that. These houses are gonna be sitting on 1/10 of an acre to maybe 0.14 of an acre. They're tract homes. And what's gonna happen is the economy may shift. These folks can go belly up. They don't care. They're gonna sell it to somebody else. It'll sit there like Joseph's Claims did in Gibsonville for years. Grass will go around it. People will try to buy it. It won't be able to get sold. So they're talking like they want growth and they want to bring money to the community and things like that. But what they're potentially doing is bringing us a headache. They're bringing, we all know downtown, we don't have parking. I think everybody can raise their hand and contest to that, that I know for a fact I have to watch our personal lot because of certain people parking that are not using our businesses. So if you bring all these extra residents and they want to support our businesses downtown, how is our downtown community going to be able to service the parking for that? And then as far as the other note that I thought about how someone had said about students moving over there, that could be the case. But then the other part to that is if they do, we know students, how they behave. You know, they're out driving at night, things like that. So it's just overall a mess. And then Reedy Fork, if everybody wants to go right by Reedy Fork and look at what these guys have done, please do. And I think that would make most everybody's decision here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, and last on the list to speak is Wendy Scott.
She's not here.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, we did receive a comment from the public via email last week. So Carrie's gonna read, and this was in opposition. Okay. Did you have a question?
Just was, do you want to comment if I could?
Oh, are you signed in?
I am signed in.
Okay. Let me just change your. Okay. So if you'll just, we're gonna let her
These are for
speak.
people to hear.
Okay,
Just what it?
go ahead.
Okay. All right, hi, I'm Samira Kawasmi. I live at 312 Truett Drive, so I'm over on this side here. I am a mother to children that are in the West. Also an Elon resident, obviously, and I am a partner in a restaurant located here in Elon, so I manage McGurk's. And we've been here for almost 4 years now. It's been great, 2 of it being COVID. So that was a lot of fun, and everyone can imagine what we went through throughout that. But we're excited for what's to come. You're in 100,000 square feet of commercial space is pretty scary to think about. But even more beyond that is the fact that I know who I deal with on a day-to-day basis. And as a mom, I think I am more understanding of my clientele. Going across University Drive for the students is kind of scary thought. They should not be driving. I like that we're their bubble right here in Elon. And I'm happy to have it right here in my area and keep it out of your backyard as much as possible. I like that they are walking and that they are walking. It is the safest decision we can do for them. Even with that, I'm still helping them at times. So it's scary to think because this is going to end up being student housing. And so that's a scary thought for it. If not, if it is that it's just going to be families that are moving into it, I'm also concerned for my children and the school district that they're in and the traffic that we've already seen. School as well as middle school. So just concerns, just like everybody else, understanding there's going to be growth, there's going to be competition that comes in, things like that. But I want to make sure I don't end up being one of those vacancies that you're so easily able to fill. I don't want to be that. I moved my family here from Philadelphia. Actually the Philadelphia suburbs. So we've seen all this happen. I grew up on a farm. That farm's not there anymore. And it's about 25 minutes from one street light to the next street light. So I love living here. And I want my kids to enjoy that. That's all.
This is the public comment that came via email.
This is from Greg and Cindy Williams, address 748 Marcy Trail. Providing our feedback for the public hearing to be held on June 27th. We'll be out of town, but wanted our comments to be recorded and presented. 2 days ago, we purchased a townhome at 748 Marcy Trail in the Cable Street subdivision. At no point in the buying process were we informed of this rezoning and the possibility of 200 new homes, 200 apartments, and commercial businesses being built, which could connect with the Cable Square subdivision. We understand the growth for Elon and the attractiveness of commercial property on University Drive, but we are very opposed to it connecting to the Cable Square subdivision. If development is allowed, it should only have access to and from University Drive and not connect to surrounding neighborhoods. Our plea to the town of Elon Planning Department is to prevent this new commercial development to connect to the Cable Square subdivision.
Is there anyone in the audience who is not for nor against that wishes to speak?
Can I ask a question? I signed in, but I didn't put yes to speak.
Your name?
Clifton Fogelman. I think I'm on the bottom of the first page.
And you wanted to speak?
Yes.
Okay,
Speak against if it's.
okay, go ahead, come on up. And then we'll transition to the not for or against.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. I appreciate your time. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. I received this packet at the planning meeting.
And I don't know if you guys got a copy of it, but in this packet, it speaks to the development and it speaks to the setbacks. I know there's been a lot of talk tonight about density. And in this packet, it talks about the development standards. There's the side minimum, as Mr. Alexander has spoken about earlier, the side minimum is 3 feet is for what they're proposing in this ordinance. Their minimum lot size is 3,000 square feet as opposed to 6,000 square feet. I live in Cable Square, 604 Olson Drive, I'm sorry. My lot's 10,000 square feet. Those houses there are pretty close together there. So I can only imagine 3 houses being on the size of my lot where I live. The width is,
Keep going.
yeah,
Keep it closer at the time from-
I'm almost finished.
Keep going.
The width for single family detached, the front lot width is 60 feet. But according to what they're proposing, is 26 feet. Now, in their presentation, they talked about parking. They talk about how they're going to get the cars to fit. Well, if your lot line is 26 feet wide, how much is your whole front yard going to be a driveway? So you can park 2 cars side by side because they've already established that they're only going to be back 20 feet so they can have 2 cars there. So those are just things that I have questions, I have concerns about as a resident of Elon is the density. I think it's great. Growth is great. I'm a builder here in Alamance County. I'm not against building, but I'm against this much density. It's too much.
Anyone down the middle?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, I want to get a clarification. I understood the proponents, they explained that there would be private trash collection in the development.
That is what I wrote down. Shared that. Was that you, Chad? Was that what you meant by that?
So I'll just elaborate a little bit. So in preliminary technical review process in working with street widths and in access for streets and town staff narrower than normal in certain subsections, in certain parts of the neighborhood, a contract hauler would be used to collect the garbage as opposed to town services. Would not be the town collecting the entire neighborhood because access widths was a concern.
Is that specifically in the alley or in other areas as well?
It would be in the alley driven lots because the town's just uncomfortable in setting that precedent. Commercial collector, whether it's former Waste Industries, now I guess it's GFL, they have no trouble with accessing those properties. They do it all over the place. But it is a process that we went through just to investigate to make sure that that is implemented to the town.
So it would be a hybrid where some city services and other areas of the would be none, or is it going to be the whole development would have this private?
Okay, so like I previously said, so the areas that are too narrow, too
Just the areas.
small, uncomfortable for the town would be the
I
contract.
just wanted to make sure.
And
Madam Mayor, if I, oh, sorry.
So would that be the responsibility of the homeowners association to dictate that? To negotiate a contract? Because if GFL decided they want to do this, 2 years down the road, they opted not to. We as a town board and council would have responsibility providing that service, right? Right?
Correct.
That's my concern is if you replace what we're doing with a contractor and then something fails, what are those residents left to do?
So in a typical situation, if we have a large apartment complex and we contract with GFL and they lose the contract, the next year Republic comes in, the next year another waste company comes in. So I would just say attend to funeral homes. Waste Industries is in a good business. So the contract negotiations that you go through to budget concerns, It happens on the private side of the HOA just the same. So you've always been able to maintain garbage collection through your staff or negotiate with collectors is the same.
I guess the difference I see is apartments are handled differently from a town perspective. We don't contract you with property. Essentially, that would be town property that would be maintained by.
Again, he's talking about the alleyways, which will not belong to the town.
Right.
So it will be private property that will be owned by the HOA. They'll make arrangements for solid waste collection.
So that would be dumpsters.
Or cans along the alleyway that they'd come and pick up.
It's a lot to do with the private street versus public street, comfort level of staffs, putting their service on a street that's not normally what they would expect to be.
My question for the councilman, yeah, I get to clarify. So, but again, to your point, HOAs are not obligated for every service. They can fail. I mean, they can. You have to provide the service, right? That's. But no, that's what I'm saying.
I think that he answered that.
But that's what I'm asking is if an HOA fails, who picks that up? Is it the town?
I personally have GFL come to my home and I've had them for 17 years. 16 years because I had Republic. Because no one would come collect garbage. Republic wouldn't do an adequate job. GFL at the time was the way the industry did, and they've been collector ever since. And would work the same way for the HOA or for the individual residents. It's not a public street. It's not committed. It's the town's responsibility to collect their garbage.
We
Just
can
following up.
have staff look into that.
No, I think I understand what he said. I got it this time.
But Mayor, a corollary to it. So how wide does the town normally require a street to be in standard developments that the town is going to take over? What is the width of the street?
Yeah, so the town's typical street section is 31 feet back to back. That's back curb to back to curb. The proposed street section on this one, there's 3 different proposed street sections. We had some, during the review process, there's one of them that does not meet that standard. And we, as a result of that, we added some provisions into that are conditions of the plan in order to make it more accessible for fire department and trash and waste pickup.
And what is the width of the one that doesn't meet?
I see 27.
I think that, that's really what- yes.
And then the alleyway is 20 feet. Is that correct?
That's, the alleyway is shown as being a 20-foot easement, but 12 to 16 feet of pavement. That's a, well, I guess, as correctly pointed out, that's a private alleyway access. That's not, the town has no responsibility for that alleyway.
Just by way of precedent, Madam Mayor, what is Elon, the town's normal, and are there other subdivisions that you all have adopted or approved in the past that did not require them to meet a city width standard? And they maintained a private road system in the subdivision? Are there any?
Twin Lakes does have a private road system.
They do. I don't know that if it meets the public road standard, but certainly Twin Lakes is private.
The best example would be Greystone, which has private streets in it. And that is, they are
Right off the University Drive.
right up off of, yes, Cook Road, University Drive, but yes. Yes, it's in Elon.
It's just north of that Schmidt Park.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, it's in Elon. Yeah, and that street section is less than the required street section was at the time that was built, but they're also private roads.
And so, Madam Mayor, again, the underlying assumption is this remains a private road system forever. But the roads that are not big enough, not wide enough,
Only the alley.
I thought I understood the 27-foot.
The 27 foot would be a town road.
thought he said that was one of the ones that did not meet the
It
city.
didn't. It's in the conditions of the request. Part of the conditions.
All right, so at some point in the future, if the development or somebody wanted these roads to be taken over for town maintenance, they would all be eligible to be taken over for town maintenance,
Not the alleys.
not the alleys, but the,
The road itself is with town maintenance.
okay,
Just reiterate, all of the streets will be public. Alleys will be private. And the street system that we've prescribed in there is based on the T&D standards that are in your code. And they fall back to the NCDOT design guidelines for traditional neighborhood developments. The 20-foot alley is private. There's a pavement width of 12 to 16 feet on the 5127 standard that came out of that code. 5-foot wide street that has parking on both sides came out of that code. All these are standards that are industry wide, except 27-foot wide street is common throughout North Carolina. We made a commitment that we not allow any parking in those streets. That would be handled by the HOA. The HOA would monitor that as well as the alleys to make sure that nobody's parking the sidewalks or in the street where it's not allowed. So that's exactly. Those standards were set up, one, by your code, and two, by precedent. And I've been designing things for 30 years. So just clarify.
and is one of the conditions, no parking on those streets?
Yes,
That's one of the listed conditions.
that is listed in the,
As I just heard, that is no parking in those streets enforced by an HOA.
well, that was what I was just gonna ask. Is this not enforceable by our police department?
Not
No,
private. There
this is a street.
This is a street, because I'm not walking my neighborhood and writing parking tickets, so I can't imagine a citizen-ran HOA being responsible for, just because they say no parking allowed, and to make room for the fire department on that street. Well, what happens when somebody violates it that one time when there's a medical emergency? That has nothing to do with my objection prior, but now that just seems crazy to me.
Is that enforceable by our police department?
Yes, it's a public road. It'll be owned by the town. It'll be posted as no parking. It will be enforced to the extent that any no parking area is enforced.
So parking enforcement will oversee that in addition to likely.
Whether it's parking enforcement or whether it's police on their routine patrols, it would be enforced.
Okay, I'm just gonna open it one last time to anyone who's indifferent, who has not spoken and is signed in. Okay, we are going to close the public hearing. Thank you all so much. Before we move on, I will say that I think that our board has a lot to look at. And I don't think, this is probably the most controversial rezoning we've probably experienced. And I think that, the board needs to look at, and I say the board because I don't vote. The council, that's right, we're the council now. We always look at both sides. In our land development plan, we talk about the integrity of our small town charm. That is important to everyone on this board. At the same time, we know that we have to grow. We have a need to grow in some way, shape, or form. And it's never an easy decision when you have to make one like this, because you either A, upset your residents that you are really upheld to each and every day, or B, you lose out on a great opportunity. And that's a very hard decision to make. And I can assure you that when you're sitting on that side, it's not as difficult as when you're up here making that vote. So I just want to make sure that both the applicant and everyone here understands that we do not take these decisions lightly. It is not easy. And, you know, we will be reviewing this over the next couple of weeks. I'm sure we will have lots of conversations with our town manager, with our town attorney, our planning department. And, you know, I just want to thank everyone for coming out, because we would like to see a packed house every week. I don't know, we want to have a 3-hour meeting or 4-hour meeting every other week, but you know, this is what we want to see, and this is important. And I think that this also goes to show how important it is for everyone to participate in our planning. You know, when that land development plan was up, I never saw a room this packed. So the plan that's really bringing this development forth, no one showed up for that. Nobody.
I'll be honest, a lot of us didn't know, and I think that was right when COVID started, wasn't it?
No, it was not. It finished the year that I started on this board. It was 5 years ago. We have a town newsletter every month. Every meeting is announced in that. You know, we have social media, we have a website. There's only so much we can do to get the word out. But this is what this room should look like in every planning process. So then when it comes to a rezoning, it's not a surprise when this comes before our board. So I would just encourage everyone to make sure that you're part of the process. Don't just come when, you know, you're upset. Come when you're happy. Come when you want to see change. Come when you want to talk about something great that happened in town, because that's what part of participating in your town is. Because I think we all get so worked up about what happens at the national level, but what we do right here impacts you the next day. What they do in DC might never impact you a day in your life. So I hope that you all will show up in 2 weeks, and 2 weeks after that, and every 2 weeks after that.
That date that y'all will resume on this.
It is on the 12th, I believe. Let me confirm that on my calendar. Yes, Tuesday, the 12th, 6 p.m. Okay.
Will that be available online as well? Some of us will be out of town.
Yes, there's a Zoom link. Do they have to request the Zoom link after our issue, or how does that work?
Each meeting is advertised with the Zoom link.
Okay.
I have struggled with that. Just, this is not limited to be criticism. Like, I have gone and when you click in, it says this meeting is over instead of the new one. I don't know if that's the issue you're referring to. Because I was on vacation. I wanted to make,
No, we had an issue where children hacked our meeting, and
as they want to do. So what happened was I was on vacation. We were on vacation, right? It's that time. And we wanted to join. We clicked on it. It was already been resolved, which normally when I see that, because I work in IT, that was like the last one was in there.
so Diane, can we make sure that Adam gets that link to share with the HOA?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I can let my community do that.
Thank you. You all are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. I'm sure it will be riveting. All right, moving on, ordinances and resolutions. Letter A is the certificate of sufficiency. I believe your town clerk is addressing that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, so I was asked to. My assignment was to look at this petition certificate and determine its sufficiency.
She's gonna hurt somebody with this voice.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh will shut the door.
This is my aunt. She's shy. She doesn't live in Elon, but she used to.
I used to, but a lot of things what's going to be happening here will impact where I live. So that's why I came to listen. Okay.
Ready now? Okay. So my assignment was to determine whether or not the petition would be valid. And my findings are that the petition does not contain a meets and bounds description of the area proposed for annexation. The area described in the petition is not contiguous to the town's primary corporate limits as defined by General Statutes 168-31 and does not meet the standards of annexation defined by General Statutes 168-58.1 because the area is a portion of a subdivision and the entirety of the subdivision is not included.
We don't have to do anything else with that because it didn't meet sufficiency, right?
Right.
Okay,
How do we respond back to it?
I believe the landowner was already aware.
This is a process that we.
Yeah, again, this was a vacant lot in a subdivision that subdivision already has sewer. This lot does not. And in order to extend sewer to it, they had to petition to be annexed. It can't be annexed, but they did submit the petition. Now we can extend the sewer to the lot. It's a process, but
We'll reach out and remind him that he can apply for the hookup now, that he can apply for the connection.
All right. Did you have a question?
That's it, thank you. Dennis.
Okay. Letter B, fiscal year 22 year-end budget amendment. Rich?
okay, this was in, the item was in your packet. The attachment was not because we were still working on bank reconciliations that we were behind on after our finance director had left. So we've caught those up. We've been working with who does our financial reporting. And as we looked at where we are now after the journal entries have been made, we have one department, which the Powell bill, which still has funds in it. But in order to be safe, in case we had a project last week, if something comes up tomorrow, we didn't want to run the risk of running out of funds in that line. So we're recommending a year-end budget amendment of $2,000 from appropriated fund balance into the Powell bill, which will ensure that we end up with a positive balance in that account at the end of the fiscal year. That was the only account that we looked at that we had any concerns about.
Questions for Rich?
I don't know if this matters, probably does. We've got B, hereby ordained by the Board of Aldermen, County of Eagle State.
Oh, they didn't change that. Okay.
So we need to approve with that change? If, okay.
I'll make the motion to approve. Change.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. If you'll get me that edited version to sign, I'll come. All right, letter C, amend ARPA grant fund account.
Okay. They say third time's a charm. Real briefly, last spring, as we were notified that we were given the recipients of funding through the federal ARPA program, we've done a budget amendment to create a special revenue account for the anticipated amount of money we were going to receive. As time gone on and guidance was clarified from the state and the federal government, back in December, I asked you to change that to a grant project account, which is non-lapsing, which you did. What I neglected to provide for you was that the estimate that we had approved last spring actually increased. I think we were looking at about $3.5 million at the time. It's now 3.89 million, a little bit. I'm asking you to amend that budget amendment with the correct amount so that folks are all in order.
Once again, we'll have to change, do we have to change the Board of Aldermen to Town Council?
Yes.
Did I not do that for you?
No.
Definitely not. Okay.
I'd like to make the motion that we accept this with the change to Board of Aldermen.
Have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next up, new business. We already covered letter A, so we'll go to letter B, property donation offered by family of William Henry May. updating us on it.
Okay, if you would, Jen.
Everybody's tired now.
You're more recent with it than I am.
May family wants to donate property to the town for our use, hopefully for recreation. Recreation use. The property is located near a future freeway path, on actually a future freeway path. It's located along floodplain. It's really not otherwise developable. And they want to honor their family by donating this land. Their only condition is how it's made.
Where's Loop Road, the vicinity of Loop Road? Off 87?
It is. It's also, it's.
Loop Road is off 87. I know where that is, but
Yeah.
so it's property adjacent to that.
Yes, it's two properties on Loop and one below it off of the east-west.
The diagram, that's why I was curious.
Yeah, I just realized.
Question about that.
Plus or minus 5.6 acres.
So
It's in the ETJ?
It is. Currently, it's in the, so I did some research to discover that that we can own property that's outside of our.
Once we own it, we can annex it.
That's correct if you want to.
Okay, 'cause that's what we did with the northern property. We purchased that and then
annexed it.
What's the protocol for taking questions from the audience throughout the meeting?
It's board's prerogative on non-public hearings, whether you want to allow public comment or not.
That's how little participation we have.
That's
is we
fair.
have to
I
ask.
promise this has nothing to do with what we discussed. This is different than, I was really excited to see that the donation to Beth Smith Park of the 2 houses I had read online. This is different than that.
Yes,
So this would be an additional green space.
that's correct.
Did we accept the 2 houses?
Clarify, it's not 2 houses.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's 2 parcels that DOT acquired when they built University or Cook Road. They didn't need them. So now they donated them to the town.
So this is not that. We were very excited about that, just for the record. We're excited about this too.
It's the graphic. Didn't get it. That's why.
And what is the naming condition?
The family has asked that a historical marker be placed on the property in honor of Mr. May.
Was his family started May Hosiery,
I was right. It was in it. Yeah, it was.
May Memorial
I was from
Library,
the Memorial.
May Memorial Library and some other things.
What is the size?
About 5 acres. The acceptance of the property doesn't obligate you to develop it in any way. It doesn't obligate you to own the property and then think later about what to, stuff for suggestions.
So without seeing the topography of that property, does it lend itself to green space or leaving it as it is? Because what is the benefit if we can't
Trail,
with
it's a
trails.
trail connection.
trail connector?
As I recall, one of the parcels includes floodway. It's in the wetlands, it's in the channel. Not a lot will be done with that.
It would be a trail system, just like our high school, Western High School.
It's already part of our
It's part
plan.
of the planned route
Okay.
that I can show you. But it is part of a greenway.
Lighting, bicycle,
Yeah, I
pedestrian.
think it's a great idea. I was just curious to see what it would cost us to bring it to that point where we can honor them.
To develop it for a greenway.
Yeah.
or develop it. I guess that's the same, the question of the entirety of the green, where those funds will come from. and
Yeah,
what-
I mean, I hate to be obligated to acquire it, and then we spend a large enormous amount of, because obviously there's grant monies, but the town taxpayers had to fulfill the requirement.
Yeah, no, it's not, you're not obligated to develop it. It's basically like you're being given an easement for a future
pathway.
Sign.
We have to take action on that. Are we taking action on?
I move that we accept.
Well, the agenda weeks.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally.
And should you accept it, then town manager could initiate a deed transfer process.
Engineer, is Josh, have you seen this property?
No, sir.
I don't think he has. No, I don't.
I'm trying to find what property we're looking for. Not going with.
It's three separate parcels.
I was gonna move it to the consent agenda unless someone was opposed. We're just taking. We'll move that item to the consent agenda. All right, next on the list is,
We'll add the map in next week's package.
Thank you.
Good visual.
letter C, downtown social district.
Try to wake you guys all up now, okay? Just so I don't feel left out, if somebody want to just slam that buzzer since I had to do it to everybody else. Let me applause, yes, I'm putting my glasses so I can see. Okay, so I am here tonight to present to you the concept of a downtown social district. I hope you all had an opportunity to at least peruse the information I provided and a little bit of history on the social district and how it came to be. Well, downtown Elon, during the pandemic, I was not working here and I was so pleased to see all that went on in our town, creating all these little dining areas and how we responded to the pandemic. And as a resident at the time, that's all I was really happy about that. And one of the things we got to do in these social districts was take our alcoholic beverage out there and enjoy that. So in order for that to continue forward, the state did allow us to do that during, and I'm not sure if it's expired. It was supposed to expire in June. I'm not sure if they.
End of June.
End of June.
The emergency declaration, as far as we know, is going to expire at the end of June.
Right. So in theory, we are no longer allowed to go to the Root or go to McGurk's and take our food and our alcoholic beverages out to our dining areas that we so now love and enjoy. So that is why we are coming before you with the proposition of a social district. So I'm going to explain to you a little bit about what it is. In your packet, I did put, there's a map that Carrie so kindly put together for me that shows this is just a concept. The things we're talking about tonight are an idea of what the boundaries would be. So North Williamson to West Lebanon, to Holt to Haggard. So basically around the perimeter of the majority of our.
To Haggard.
Yes, because in order to, and this would depend on what happens if the church property would be interested in being included in that area. And I'm briefly mentioning, but our Music to Dine To program, we utilize that grass area where all the picnic tables are, where that in fact is not town property. But that the participants do enjoy having their beverages, alcoholic beverages on that grass area. So that's something we have to address. Now, if for some reason we don't include that area, we could stop it at the Pandora's and utilize just that street there. So that's something we kind of have to discuss. But as of right now, the majority of people are on that grassy area, except for right under the tent. And right now, Pandora's would not be allowed to have somebody take their alcoholic beverage under the tent, because that is not a part of their dining area. So that's just something to ponder, right? Let's see. I'm gonna just try to answer a few of your questions and for the audience, whoever's left here, what a social district is. So it's an exception to the North Carolina Open Container Law. In September 2021, the law was ratified to allow the government to establish social districts. It's really helped us during the pandemic. Luckily for us, we now can do this. We can establish a social district. So who can designate a social district? House Bill 890 allows for cities, counties to opt into the district, and the city may adopt an ordinance and destination area where they want the district to take place. So there are a few towns that have already done it, and I did include that in your packet if you had a chance to look. There's some really good information. Most of those just came right off their website and how they're publicizing that. So it's really clearly defined, very specific on what you have to do within the district. I'm just going to run through this quickly. You have to have the days and hours that the alcoholic beverages can be consumed in the district. It has to be posted, very specifically posted. The telephone number to the L division and law enforcement. So you'd have like Elon Police Department's phone number on this sign. A clear statement that alcoholic beverages can be purchased for consumption only in the social district. So you would have signs all around that perimeter. Before it can become operational, you have to have a detailed map stating the boundaries and the hours of operation. And it really varies. I think it's Greensboro. They do theirs from like 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. We at Elon might not feel that we're really comfortable with that being in a college town. You may decide you want it to be from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. That's completely individual what you choose as far as your hours, based on our needs and our desires in our town. If you are a business in the district and you do not want to have alcoholic beverages in your business, you do not have to. You can post a sign that says no alcoholic beverages allowed here. The other things that are required is you have to specifically have a designated cup in the district. Let's say it's a bright orange that would have a logo with a town logo, the name of the business, and it has to say, no alcohol beverages to be drank by anybody under 21. So actually the specific wording is drink responsibly, be 21. You specifically have to have
Is
that.
that gonna be a town expense then that we're gonna buy for the businesses?
That's something we'd have to talk about. In fact, I talked to a few of the business owners about it at the merchant meeting, and some of them expressed, hey, we'd be willing to pitch in to buy,
Yeah, they were
to
very
buy
interested.
cups.
But they have to have their own individual logo cup.
No.
No,
No,
it's
But the name of their business.
It says that you can't take one business's, like an example I gave, restaurant A to restaurant B, and not take that consumed alcohol into their business.
Right.
So would that require them to have individually labeled, branded?
No,
You just don't let
use a
somebody sit
district
down
cup.
with it.
Yes, so the law is,
Well, if I went from A to B, now we got the same cup as A does, how does that restrict?
Well, you shared with us that they would have the name of their business on it.
right,
We stop people with the thermos.
I'm just reading what she said,
yeah.
and that's what I read to it. It's almost as if Pandora's would have to have their own cup.
And Monty, I guess the answer is, that's why we're here tonight to talk about
Yeah,
something.
that's what, and that's why that's the
If
cup.
that's the issue, then we can certainly tell the businesses, if you want to participate, you're buying the cups, and you can put your logo on it, and that's
And
fine.
it sounds like if we do an establishment of boundaries, we could, the church could make a boundary just for the green
Yes.
area and not have to do the rest of the church.
They could
Right.
put- They could put their own sticker on it. You got like-
Yeah, we can have an area that's just basically
Right, where
encompasses where we.
pretty much where
Because
you-
you don't want it all the way up to the church part, the-
Well, no, and there's no need to. That's right.
Right.
It would be to feed whatever they're doing on that green.
Except on Sundays.
And we could pay, except, well, I don't know. It's-
Communion.
Yeah, that's right, communion, that's right.
One more question on that. I apologize. Y'all are gonna get tired of me, I swear, because I'll be here every time, I promise. I actually love that idea. My only concern with that is, with the cups, are they reusable, or are we talking about a ton of single-use plastic going in our trash?
They are, yeah, they're whatever you decide you want to print.
Okay, because I love the idea and I hate single-use items.
Yeah.
Just something to
Yeah.
consider. I mean, more plastic into the environment. I know
I
that's
don't know
not.
that we want reusable, because then that could create another issue.
Agreed. Yeah. Just a thought, more single-use plastic.
There are plastics that aren't plastic though.
Compostable.
Talk about it, that's right.
Compostable.
The same rules are required in the social district as are required now. In other words, they must be purchased by an ABC permittee. You cannot bring your own beer and wine into the area. I repeat that. So for the concerts, people could not bring in their coolers and things like that. You would have to purchase from a designated restaurant or individual there. You must consume from the required container and the hours that are set in there. So it's very regulated. And I just wanted to reiterate here that the sale and delivery of alcohol in a social district is subject to the same limitations for the sale and deliveries in North Carolina. So no more than 2 malt beverages or wine drinks to one single patron, which is, you probably know that, right? And then no more than 1 mixed beverage or liquor drink to one at one time to a single patron. So the rules are really the same. It's basically just allowing me to walk out of the restaurant, go to one of our dining areas, because those are not connected to a specific restaurant. That's the issue. They're just open, and we actually want to create more of that in our downtown. So this would help with that. Basically, what I'm asking of you tonight is to decide if you like the concept of this social district. I've mentioned it briefly to the merchants, and of course, our downtown advisory board knows. But I think, to me, the key to this is communication with our stakeholders, the university, our police department, at least very aware. And she has some of her own things that I wouldn't think about, and getting those very important groups of people together, because there has to be buy-in for this, and everybody has to think it's a positive thing and not a negative thing, that we're not trying to have a block party. We're just trying to create more flexibility in our dining areas and basically continue what we've been doing.
So the process wouldn't necessarily be us crafting it as much as with the help of some of these other stakeholders, that they
That's
would
right.
come and craft a plan and then bring it to
What
us.
everybody's comfortable with. Yeah. So with that, I guess if there's any more questions, or, I guess I'm just looking for direction from you on how to proceed.
I think it's a great idea, right? I do question going all the way to Haggard.
That was only to include the church properties, so if we're not comfortable with that, it could be, stopping at the plaza there and then just including a small portion to include our area for the music to dine to.
Yeah, and I think it's something neat to our town, especially with what we're gonna do with our plaza area. I did talk to some other businesses that will not be in the social district, and they're a little about it, but it's just, we're not doing anything we haven't been doing. So it's one of their concerns was it was gonna draw more business or something, and I don't think it will. But I think it'll be something that'll allow us, that people have been enjoying since then.
One of the things we talked about, and the Fat Frog did reach out to me, they have a patio with a bar that can serve alcohol. Not all of our restaurants downtown do have that option. And we have these open dining areas. That's really what it's due to provide it for that, and for our what's going to be our premier venue with the plaza that's coming. We really would love to be able to have that there. So it's not to hurt anybody.
I mentioned in our downtown meeting, I'm on the, and like it or not, people are gonna drink. We want to grow our downtown area. We want to certainly have it restricted for sure. Open up Pandora's box, but.
That's right. No pun intended.
Thank you. That was good. But basically, people can do that, and we've been doing it. We just restricted with it, and make sure it's done the right way. Make it responsible. We want to be responsible, but people to grow downtown, that's just part of it.
Actually, 2 of the businesses reached out to me with this like months ago and said, look what Hickory's doing. Why aren't we doing this? And so I think that it'll really take advantage of this.
From a time perspective, can you pull something together in the next month or so? That quick, or do you think?
I think it would need to be before our next series, right, which starts in October.
Probably I want to get the merchants group together and make sure I meet with the right university. I want to make sure we really need buy-in from them. We don't want them to think this is just an opportunity for their kids to, party kind of thing. I think once they see the restrictions on it, they're going to realize it's positive all around. And actually, if you think about a student having one of the labeled cups, if they're out of the designated area, it's gonna be really obvious when they have the bright orange cup that says social district on it, that they really aren't supposed to be in that area.
And they're taking their coffee and water, all over town.
Right.
Um,
But a police officer isn't allowed, they're not allowed to look inside that, but if you have the social district cup, which is specifically for alcohol, I don't know what they can do.
I don't think it's that big of a deal, right? So
No.
if you think about it, when I was in restaurants, you only have a quarter of the campus really drinking. Into drinking age, so coming in and buying drinks.
That's true.
And if we had our time limits to that 10 o'clock time, I mean, it's not gonna open up the door of drunken collegeness more than it already is. Because they're not coming to buy a get a $2 culture or something.
Yes, I don't feel like we're crafting it. I think that there needs to be this buy-in.
I think they should do it.
So you want me to come back with some more, after a meeting with the two groups, or some more specifics about where their
They wanna
comfort
do it, yeah.
lies as far as
Or,
timeframe?
or a proposal for us to vote on.
Come back with a draft.
That's right.
And again, back to this Haggard thing, we'll kind of have to kind of craft that, see what that, and I'll make sure we get.
I
it
mean,
on.
we could put a stripe on the sidewalk.
can.
So if the cup is orange, which who knows, but if the cup's orange, you could do an orange line on the sidewalk, like this is as far on the sidewalk you can go. And then that makes it very clear.
I'm not that, I mean, there's gonna be people who are gonna do that anyway, but I'm just saying, just from a sense of not going all the way to Haggard, we just would say 200 feet or 100 feet or 50 feet
Right.
beyond.
I'd be curious how you're gonna do the signage, because, it can be very unattractive if your business, you got to put signs on the outside your wall.
It's really cute. I mean,
Well, that's
we're
what I'm
not
saying.
inventing the wheel here. I mean, we're
But I'd
taking
like to
others
see,
and it's
because
a little
Samples of
decal.
signs.
We get
It's-
so concerned about facades, signage up, and then we're gonna
It's
say, well,
literally
let's put up
a decal that's
social
this big,
district.
this big.
That's fine, if that's what we're gonna do, I just
Yeah, we
think
get
we need to be
samples.
upfront
Okay,
about.
I think you got your marching orders then. I think it's good.
It's a good idea, it's just.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, next item is letter D, consider summer meeting cancellation. I do have a question. Does this really require a resolution? We've never had a resolution to cancel meetings in the summer before.
We used to do it before 2015. We would always have a resolution.
Okay, so for 7 years, we didn't do it, and now we
Yeah.
do it.
It makes it official. It's just something in the records to show that you canceled the meeting. But
I mean, for me, I don't feel comfortable passing a resolution without knowing if we will or won't. Personally,
it can just be a consensus or a vote, and we'll record it in the minutes.
I guess more importantly, the question is, does the board want to take any time this summer?
That's a good, that's
Skip meetings.
question right now, based on what we've been dealing with.
Certainly not July 12th.
right. I mean.
Well-
I feel like it's on our calendars. Right, I mean,
One of the concerns I
yeah, the
heard,
meetings are on our calendars, that's what I mean.
one of the concerns I heard was that there was only 5 of the planning commission folks there to make a vote for this development and stuff, and we're right in the middle of summer. As of right now, I'm supposed to be at summer camp on July 12th. I'm trying to figure out a way right now to come back for that evening. So I can-
Yeah, can you be back so I don't have to break any ties or anything?
Well, let me
Because
ask
I
you.
said I didn't vote,
Because
so.
is anyone else going to be missing right now on July 12th?
I'm not missing a meeting.
I don't know about Steph. You know, she was like,
Don't you remember that Quinn made that commitment?
So, and that's what I'm wondering, but then we're into the work session on the 25th. And I know I can't make that meeting because I'm gonna be recovering from surgery. I'm actually having surgery that day.
Mayor, unless it benefits the staff, I'm not opposed to. It's on my schedule. It benefits the staff not to have a meeting. I will entertain that. But I don't know if any of us are.
What are you anticipating? I mean, you've only been here 8 hours, so you can't anticipate.
No, it's 11 hours now.
Oh, 11 hours, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're really starting to add them up now. But I'm just wondering because, like I said, I'm actually having surgery that day, so I know I won't be here that day.
When are you on vacation?
End of August, so I'll miss that August workshop.
The 22nd. But that's when we're supposed to be in Asheville. So you're not going to Asheville? Okay, well, I'm going to. When do you leave for Asheville?
I leave on Sunday the 20th.
We might need to, the 21st, Sunday the 21st.
The 21st, yes.
Did we anticipate this when we were doing our yearly schedule? Because I remember we
We
talked.
used, I mean, typically in the past, we did cancel like the first July meeting. July meetings.
We did both July meetings
Yeah.
before, but we've also had to.
Special meetings.
Have special meetings,
That's
yeah.
correct, yeah. So
Well, just so everybody realizes, we will not have a town manager or a town clerk here on August 22nd. So maybe we should go ahead and I would like to go ahead and go to Asheville to support Diane on that day.
that's a staff request, and that was my question. What, you know, if both of them aren't going to be here, then it would be difficult for us to hold a meeting.
Cancel our work
We would have
session on
to-
the
yeah,
We can just
22nd.
call a special meeting if we have to.
We can, let's cancel our work session.
Okay, we're gonna cancel our work session on August 22nd.
What about July 25th? Do we need that one?
I mean,
I think so.
I think we need to do what we can with what the situation is in front of us right now and not let a lot of time pass. I mean, I know we heard a lot tonight about not rushing things through, but I think we need to keep it in our forefront by constantly asking questions, having staff. I would hate to not meet again until August.
Yeah.
When you all meet in July, not July 12th, but the second meeting.
The 25th.
That's your work session for the first meeting in August. And then there's a break. It's the break we're talking about, not having that work session in August. So
The
that,
July work session still could be a work session for,
yeah,
I would say let's continue that schedule like we would, and then we would go to the August.
okay.
August work session, I guess would be, that would be my.
And Randy, it's okay.
I
if you
will
miss
do
a
the
meeting.
best I can. I will let you. I'd have to work. I have to. work a
Unless
lot
you're
of stuff.
Quinn, you can miss a meeting.
No, I have to work a lot of stuff out. No, I mean, there have been people talking to me and the fact that I wouldn't be here, I don't think they would like that. So I just feel like I'll have to deal with that. So we're definitely going to meet on the 12th. And we're definitely going to make this decision on the 12th.
no,
No, we're making it right now that we're canceling August 22nd.
yeah, we don't have to.
Is that what we
What
decided?
decision are you talking about being made on the 12th?
For developers.
We don't have to.
Okay.
It'll be on our agenda.
It'll be on the agenda. But maybe we'll table it.
We're never forced, but I mean, it'll be on our agenda to vote.
Okay.
So do we need a resolution to cancel our work session on the 22nd of August?
No, but let's move that to our consent agenda.
Okay.
But that's the only meeting.
Yes, August 22nd. We will not hold, and if we need to, we will call a special meeting at a later time.
Okay.
Maybe we should ask Bob. Bob, do we need to pass a resolution to cancel a meeting?
I don't think it requires a resolution.
Okay, thank you. This is why we have you here, Bob.
I'm absorbing.
This is not a normal meeting, Bob. I mean,
How do
you
you-
would have already been, showered, asleep, all of that by now on a typical evening. All right, moving on. We have made it, guys, to our town manager report. Make it brief. You have 3 minutes.
I have nothing.
Even better.
I will yield my time to the board.
Thank you. We'll start with Randy.
Pass.
Okay, Quinn.
So we didn't have our Arts Advisory Council meeting, committee meeting, but some cool news. I don't know if, have you shared it, Jill? So
The downtown board knows.
the downtown board knows, but can you inform the board of what's awesome?
Sure. So, I wish I had pictures with me. I don't. but I have this. So, you all know Carrie Worthy, who is the director of the Alamance Arts Council, the Big Yellow Building in Graham. He retired. I'm not quite sure when. But part of his retirement is they did a fundraiser to raise money for pieces of artwork to be delivered to the different towns and cities. We have been designated as one of those. And so I will do my best to try to describe what this thing is. Do you have a picture?
I think it looks
Yay,
like
Rich.
it's a big
Thank
ball
you.
with telescopes. that you
It's a
have.
kaleidoscope. It's a plant kaleidoscope.
They're awesome.
And so you put a plant inside, you put your plants inside of that, and then you have the kaleidoscope thing.
Oh, that's
Isn't there a
cool.
picture with the?
I don't know, do you have the one with the plant on it or is that?
It's in there somewhere. That was the first one I came
That was the
to.
first one. Again, it does look much better with the plants. But anyway,
Do you have a location for it yet?
so we're working on a location.
I thought so, okay.
Yes,
I'm up to date, okay.
What it requires from us is some concrete, things like that, and then deciding where to place it. So we talked about, we talked about in front of town hall, but then that's not really in the main part of downtown. We discussed down there where the plaza is, but thought it's kind of large. It's a big ring, it's kind of large, that maybe that's not as versatile. And then we talked about possibly on church property on the edge of the grass there.
Wanted to put a gazebo up at one time, so yeah.
Which would be close to the plaza, but then, so I told David we'd have to get together and talk
Let's
about
talk
it.
to the trustees.
And I can't remember the dimensions exactly, but it's about this big.
We can put it right at the end of the social district.
Big sign.
Stop here.
So I think it's really nice that they want to donate a piece of artwork, and it's one of the things I want to work on is art and murals, so.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's really, the finished product is really pretty. You painted a color and has all the plants inside and you look at the little.
So I was excited to hear that, right? We're finally brought some art to downtown. Everybody had a good Father's Day. I had a nice one with the two kids. But other than that, I hope we, as council members, do our due diligence and really try to study and look into what's tonight, so we can discuss and make a good decision for our town.
Monty?
Yeah, I want to thank and welcome to Landon and Lori to our first, like she said, our meetings aren't always this long and lengthy. And I want to thank our developers for showing up, presenting, put a lot of hard work into it. And most importantly, I appreciate the citizens that showed out and shared their feelings. And, obviously it's a tough thing to, there's a happy medium there. And obviously as a council, I think that's our goal, is to, we know that growth is inevitable. We have to do it smartly, and we have to do it with intention. And I think that's important. Lots of questions were answered, a lot of questions still haven't been answered. But thanks for showing up. Mr. Boney, thank you for showing up.
Yes, welcome to Landon, Lori, and Bob. Y'all, and Rich appreciates you being on staff, so welcome to all you. And wanted to thank Emily for a very, what I thought was a very good statement about participation and just kind of our process. Thought you did a really good job with that. And thank y'all for coming out and citizens. Hey, that's what we're here. We want to listen to everybody. It is a tough decision, but we want to make the right decision.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I want to start by thanking Mark for holding down the fort at the last meeting while I enjoyed a vacation. So thank you very much for that. And thanks to the board for handling everything. Evidently I missed our first meeting as town council, which is a bummer, but I guess.
Well, it's not like you have anything to do with the transition to town council.
I know, right? I did have a really great meeting. Actually, Rich and I had a great meeting with Dr. Book and the administration at Elon University to discuss kind of where we are, where we're going, and things of that nature, how we can continue to improve that relationship. On that same topic, I was in Cincinnati this past weekend, visiting with some family friends, and I took the time to meet with the assistant town manager in Oxford, Ohio, which is home to Miami University. I found it to be very enlightening. They actually have 23,000 residents, 18,000 are students. So if we think our half and half is difficult, you can only imagine what they are dealing with. And to learn how the tax system works in Ohio versus here, and how they're meeting their goals, and, you know, just some ideas to come back with. And I took lots of pictures, and I have a whole slew of notes. But I think that one of the things that really stood out to me was they're very involved in the International Town Gown Association. So I'd really like to see us do more with that organization. And one of the things that that organization really kind of promotes is to living in reality. That's kind of their words, is that you are a college town. We're not going to not be a college town. And, you know, you have to kind of lean into that. And some of the things that college towns have to deal with that maybe other towns don't, those issues are going to be there. So finding those ways to lean in, you know, you're always going to be a college town. So how can you be the best college town? Not just the best town with a college, but how can you be the best college town that meets the needs of both the residents and the students that are here for a portion of the year? And I attended the PTRC board meeting while I was on vacation. And also I just wanted to congratulate Elon First Baptist Church on their 100th anniversary. I would like to do a proclamation for our next meeting to commemorate that event. So I'm already working with the church to draft that. That is all from me. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone. That's my bedtime.
That's safety.